Shall we begin?
Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
Is that all you got?
Let's begin now.
What up?
Hello, hello, hello. I am your host, Jayme Cheeseslice. I am the producer and engineer of Pasta to Go. And since Pasta is out, he's doing boots on the ground this weekend. And we didn't do a live show on Thursday. I decided, you know what? I'm going to step up, do a live show this Saturday. Now, I'm not Pasta. I can't host the show the same way he does. I don't have the same presentation skill he does. So I'm going to do the show my own way. So going to be a lot more casual. And also, since it's the weekend, I want to do some less hard hitting political news. But the topics I've picked for today are going to be more like politically adjacent type stuff, things that are not quite as important, but they're still going to be interesting to people who follow politics on the regular. So also later on today, Kit Cabello will be joining me from Hardlands Media, coming all the way from Chicago, and we will be talking about the Disney board situation, where we have a group of investors who want to get themselves put onto the board because they feel like Disney has not been doing right by the shareholders. A couple other subjects I want to talk about are the Sweet Baby Inc. Deal that's going on in the video gaming world. This is a DEI story where diversity, equity, and inclusion is being put into a lot of these AAA top tier video games, and they haven't been performing well. Gamers aren't happy about that. And so we're going to talk about that subject. Also, we've got a couple other stories. Maybe we'll get to them if there's enough time, like the Tik Tok ban. Well, we actually will be talking about the Tik Tok ban, but also the Nintendo versus Yuzu case that was settled out of court. I've got thoughts on that. That was a story about emulation and Nintendo going after somebody who makes an emulator for the Nintendo Switch. And then we've got one more story that is I saw this morning on Due Dissidence. They covered the Caitlin Johnston article where she talks about your vote doesn't matter. So I'm going to go through that video they did on her article because I had some things to say about it, and we'll talk about it here. So also one thing about this show, I want to be more interactive with the fans. So if you got questions, I'm going to be interacting with the chat as much as I possibly can. Like I said, it's much more casual. So this is my show. We're titling it Pasta with Cheese, and maybe you might have seen me and Pasta do a show before on Combo Couch where we kind of did a couple segments with this title. But I thought it was appropriate if like Pasta to Go has Cheeseslice do a show, and we use Pasta with Cheese for that. So here you go. Now, I did talk to Pasta not too long ago. He was going to be on the show tonight. He was going to pop in, but he's not sure if he's going to be able to. If I go long enough, and he might be able to come on. But right now, I'm planning on doing about 2 hours. Could go to about 3. We'll see. You'll just see how much fun I'm having and how much stamina I have, because I've never just hosted a show like this before all by myself. So anyhow, if you're tuning in, it's good to see we have people in the chat. Welcome. We got Steve. We got Mastermind Hour, Miguel H. Kit is here from Hardlands Media. Good. Nice to see everybody talking and chatting. And I hope, when you join up and watch a lot of these same shows and you see a lot of the same people, it is cool that you'll start to get to know and recognize these people. And then if you join some of these communities, like in the Discord for Hardlands Media or actually, that's the only one I'm in for politics. But I know Indie Left News has a big Discord that has a ton of people in it. It's a good way you can really get to interact with these people outside and talk about things that aren't just politics related. So anyway, about me, I know a lot of people don't know much about me. I've been working with Pasta for about a year now. We met at the Rage Against the War Machine rally last year. Well, that's where we really talked about working together. Actually, I did meet him at the right before January 6th, when we did the Force the Vote rally. And we also had a Julian Assange event the next day where they thought he was going to be extradited to the United States. And then it turned out Britain decided they weren't going to extradite him. So we had a rally to kind of celebrate that. And I did get to talk to him back then. But I was just facing the crowd. Pasta didn't he didn't remember me from that. But when we talked at Rage Against the War Machine rally, I was talking about how I really wanted to get involved. I wanted to help just do production or do video editing or graphic arts, because those are the kind of thing, that's kind of work I've been trying to do. And I had been doing some of that as a freelancer, but for stuff I just didn't care about. And now that I'm working with Pasta, I'm getting to combine my passions for arts and the creative production of media with my very, very deep, heavy interest in politics. So, but why am I interested in politics now? And my political journey is I think it's kind of interesting. See, I used to be very conservative. I was definitely a right winger. In the 90s, when I first became an adult, I was considering myself a Republican, and just following my parents' footsteps, coming out of the Reagan era. Everybody loved Reagan at the time. I mean, it's in a lot of ways America did feel good. It did feel better. We had everything was working, but except for the crash we had, the Wall Street crash. But other than that, it's like the policies they put in place made it seem like the economy was doing really well. But this was the beginning of the ginormous wealth inequality that we see and we know we have today, that was a result of those economic policies. But nonetheless, at the time, the 80s seemed like, America was on top. Everything was doing well. We won the Cold War. And it seemed like all that rhetoric about how good America was, America was a force for good, and we're making the world a better place. It seemed like things were true back then at the time. And I think as a kid who didn't have a lot of political experience, it was very easy for me to get swept up with that Reagan movement. So I was a fan of Reagan. I did support George H.W. Bush, and through the 90s, I was definitely consider myself a Republican. I mean, as a young 20-something, I actually volunteered on the Bob Dole campaign. So I liked Bob Dole. I could not stand Clinton. I didn't like him at all. I've never been a fan of the Clintons. So at least I was right about that. But anyway, around 2000, when it got to to elections for the next president, I realized that the Republicans were not a serious party when they were seriously thinking about nominating George W. Bush to be president. Because, I was in Republican circles back then, and we knew the guy was an idiot. We knew he was a moron, but the higher ups wanted to do this. And the other thing about this was I was very anti-war, even as a Republican, because I just didn't see. I think it was a value. I'm not a pacifist. I do think we should have an army, and I think we should do what we need to do to protect ourselves. But what we were doing in Iraq wasn't really protecting ourselves. We were protecting Kuwait. But and I was a young adult early in my college career out in Newport News, and the college was really close to a Navy base, and a lot of my classmates were either active military or just recently released from the military, going to school on their GI Bills, and every single one of them were saying, they knew that everybody in the military, they wanted to go back and finish the job in Iraq. It was not a secret. Anybody who was working with the military or next to the military, my friends who had internships on the bases out there, they all knew that they wanted to go back and finish the job. So and a lot of us, we're young kids. We don't want to go back and finish the job. We don't want there to be another war, that there could be a potential for the draft coming back. So I was very anti-war. And then when they nominated George W. Bush, I was like, I'm not voting for this guy. He's going to take us back to Iraq. There's no question about it. Because if anybody's going to go back, it's going to be him, because he's going to want to finish the job his daddy started. So I left the Republican Party because of the 2000 election. And I ended up voting for Ralph Nader, mostly as a protest vote. But looking back on it, I'm most proud of that vote for president. It's the most proud I have ever been to vote. I think I've never voted for anybody better than that, because I didn't actually vote for president in 2016. If I had known what I know now, I would have voted for Jill Stein. But that was the first time I just didn't vote. Well, anyway, after college, I got sucked into the military-industrial complex. I became a government contractor, working on a lot of DoD stuff and even some 3-letter agency contracts. I did a long stint with the State Department. So I got to see a lot of the ways that America works from the inside. And at first I was on board because when 9/11 happened, I mean, the patriotism um, just blew up in America. Everybody was like, we got to do what we can to secure America. Like there was a huge failure in the system and we were attacked and we wanted to do something. Now, those of us who were already there, we knew Iraq was BS. As soon as it happened, we knew that they were going to use that attack to go back to war in Iraq because everybody knew that's what they wanted to do. They were just looking for an excuse to do it. So I knew from the get-go that the WMD thing was a bunch of BS. However, Afghanistan seemed like at the time to be the good war. That was the righteous war because that was where we were hunting Osama bin Laden. So it was frustrating because those of us who knew Iraq was a bunch of garbage. I mean, you had to go along with it. I mean, we decided to invade Iraq, and then we did nation building, which is something George W. Bush said he wasn't going to do. And I was against it from the start, but once we were in there, I'm like, well, we got to support it because Saddam Hussein was the pin in the grenade that was keeping the Middle East from exploding, and we removed him, which meant now the United States had to hold on to that grenade, and if we let go, it's just going to explode. So that's why I was supportive of that for as long as I was. But in our minds, Afghanistan was the good war. Well, during my tenure with government contracting, I did have a mentor. And looking back on it now, I didn't realize it at the time, but this guy was a socialist. He was a full-blown socialist, just undercover in these government spaces. I don't know how people didn't kind of figure him out. But he was my direct mentor, and he planted a lot of seeds in my head. And I think it was easy because I was sort of receptive to his ideas in the first place, because I was generally anti-war. Well, those seeds started to take fruition. They started to blossom and become the big tree that it's become now. So by 2010, I was starting to feel uncomfortable with things. I was having a lot of trouble sleeping, and I was starting to know and understand that a lot of the work I was doing was directly contributing to the deaths of innocent people on the other side of the world that were in no way, shape, or form going to threaten the United States. And that was not sitting well with me. Amongst other things, I was learning about how our system worked, being in the government contracting space and all that. But the thing that really, really tipped me off to this was a big scam or was a bunch of garbage was when we got Osama bin Laden. I was working on a contract in Afghanistan and we got him. He was in Pakistan. So we weren't even in the right country. But that was the mission. That was the reason we were there. So we're looking at our contract saying, well, I guess we need to start wrapping this thing up because we're done. There's no more reason for us to be there in Afghanistan. And this was after we pulled out of Iraq. So I was like, oh, well, I guess we got to start wrapping up and looking for a new job. Well, a year later, we're still in Afghanistan and we realized we're not done. What are we still doing there? So that's when everything really started to sink in that this something's not right. And for me, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I mean, frankly, the only reason I was sticking around as long as I did after that was because I knew the work I was doing was helping keep Marines alive. But then once I started realizing, yeah, but those Marines being there are the reason innocent people are getting killed, that it was getting harder and harder to believe that. And I'm not kidding, I had a lot of sleep problems because it was a struggle to deal with this. But when you're in that space, you're part of the PMC, the managerial class, it gets really tough to leave. That paycheck is really nice. They pay you to not have a conscience. They pay you to not think about it. And I will say this about the people that work there. Most of them were just like me. They're fully indoctrinated into the idea of American exceptionalism. And very few are able to break free like I did. And it's a very slow and long process. But you really believe while you're there that what you're doing is a good thing. That when America does something, it's it's for the betterment of the world. It's by virtue of America doing it, it's a good thing. And when bad things happen, well, they write it off as, well, you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. So it it's tough to break free of this because everybody is in that mindset. Everybody knows that it believes that America is exceptional. America is this awesome place. We are a force for good. So it's hard to leave because when you leave that, you lose all your community. You lose your access to being a part of this. Well, um, the end of my career when coming my the end of my career involving like military DoD stuff was in 2012. There was an economic downturn, and I survived until a third round of layoffs. But it worked out for me because I was already on that. I was already on my way out. The contract I was on was coming up for renewal. I was going to work on the contract till the renewal date, and then I was out, which is about 3 weeks from the day I got laid off. So I was 1 week away from turning in my 2 weeks notice, and so it was a blessing. I got laid off. I got a huge package uh, to a severance package to go away, which I was going away anyway. It was great. Um, but then I took one more contracting job after that, working for the State Department. Now, at the time, I hadn't really, this was when I was just really starting to begin my political transition, where I was going from being a right winger, conservative, libertarian, to becoming the left winger I consider myself to be today. And at the labor department, it was probably the worst job I'd ever had. I'm not kidding. Like it, the way they did things at the labor department just did not jive with any kind of way you would think any company would work in corporate America, and I thought it was stupid. And being a contractor, I was kind of ostracized there because I was on site at the labor department, and there was like a period of 2 weeks where I was working. I worked as by myself, and like the director I had to report to was out on leave, and just because the other people in the place didn't want to, they didn't normally talk to the contractors because this was a site where the govies stayed together and the contractors stayed together. So there was a period of 2 weeks where the only people I talked to at work were the security guards to get come in and out of the building. It was pretty miserable, but I think a lot more seeds were planted at the time and how labor really should work and be treated. Now this was under the Obama administration, so it still was the neoliberalism that we all know and love, but it's still a lot of the things I learned and was exposed to then were things I was able to think about over the next decade, where I've really changed my position on it. I actually think now that the way they were doing things at the labor department were the correct way because they were looking out for labor for workers' rights. So that experience, while it was a terrible job and the terrible ending to the job, um, it had a lot of it left a lot of positive impressions on me that I now carry with me today, and why I think a lot of what I do in terms of left wing politics. So it was really the 2015, 2016 campaign that made me start realizing I wasn't a conservative anymore. Or maybe I never was really a conservative because I didn't feel like I was changing my position so much as I was learning about the political definitions of things I already believed and learning that the origins of some of the positions I had were actually left wing and not really right wing. So I do have to thank the Bernie Sanders campaign for that, because that was something that really pulled me out of thinking I was a conservative libertarian to realizing, no, I'm actually much more of a progressive, or even further than that, I'm just a solid left winger. And that's where we come today. So I started really diving into political topics, political science, learning about the language, really breaking through a lot of that ignorance that I used to have when I just thought I knew about politics. And because I've been spending so many years researching this stuff, following people in the political space, and I think I do have a large wealth of knowledge that I can bring to working with people that do this kind of work, that so I can contribute, and I'm not just doing thumbnails or just pushing buttons because somebody needs me to push buttons. I actually help Pasta produce the show because I'm very plugged in with what's going on in geopolitics, especially to know how how we should be like framing some of these issues for the audience. So that being said, I hope that was interesting to people. A little bit of getting to know me, getting to know Cheeseslice. Right now, I want to introduce my guest. He is from Hard Lens Media. It is Kit Cabello, all the way from Chicago. So let's all say hi to Kit as I bring him on right now. Welcome, Kit.
Taking over. We're taking over Pasta's show. But since Pasta's not here, it's under new management, and I just can't wait. Take that, Pasta. Take that, Pasta.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, he's wishing us luck. He's very excited. He's excited to see me do my own show. And this is sink or swim for me. So I'm just jumping right into
You're
the
doing
deep
fine.
end.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. We're live.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Let's make
thanks.
it happen. Come on.
I have a little bit of experience. I did do a football podcast for about 5 years.
Okay, there you go.
For the Carolina Panthers, I helped start their fan group there called the Roaring Riot, which is now the fan base of the Panthers. And so I was part of the Roaring Riot podcast for 5 years. But the thing is, I just fell out of love with football, and the what do you call it? The pandemic made me reevaluate like everything I was thinking about life, and sports is one of those things that just kind of, I pushed it out the door. I still know a lot about football. I mean, when you talk about football like I did for that long, you learn a lot of things, but it's hard to care anymore. It just doesn't matter. Like everything that's.
Well, I mean, that happens. I mean, like a lot of people would be surprised. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a paleontologist and be on dinosaur expeditions. And I was on 3 of them when I was a kid, 2 to Montana and 1 to South Dakota a long time ago. And then I joined the Marine Corps, and then I got into political science, and now I host a very popular YouTube channel called Hard Lens Media. So there you go. Live and direct.
I remember watching you when it was just you and Daniel on your little, on the very fledgling YouTube channel.
Oh God,
your store.
Innocent time when we were on the radio, and then when we went to Daniel's apartment at the time, that's where we did the show, and then we moved to the place in Kimball. Oh yes, so much has happened. So many iterations of Hard Lens Media, live and direct, as always.
Yeah. Oh, I think you got it. I think the way the show is going now is you got it going in the right direction. I really like the morning show. I was skeptical when you said you're going to move to mornings, but it's really worked out very well.
I have to say, doing the morning show has definitely energized our show and how we've reorganized and reestablished ourselves. And I got to say, I'm just really happy that the audience also followed along and that we have new subscribers too. And I know that there's a lot of people who wish we were on the evenings, but the morning show helps out because one, it gives me time to do a couple other projects that we do for our other channels. And then, of course, I've recently been getting involved in a little bit of other music videos and acting projects and voice acting projects. So the morning show has really just worked out great, and I just love every minute of it. Plus, I ran into I was gonna keep this story quiet until Monday because the patron supporters already know about it. But I told the people that I ran into the people who run Can TV, and apparently our show's pretty popular with the Can TV staff there. So, and with the viewers. Nice. So, yes, not only are we on the interwebs, but we are also taking over the public access channel on Can TV. So Hard Lens Media is #1. And I'm just looking forward to just expanding our show and constantly kicking ass. And I'm going to be confident enough to say that I think we're going to get to 100K subscribers before the end of this year.
I think so too. I think so too. You're doing a really good show. The Rumble numbers are up.
Rumble.
I love the chat. Cow. I love the chat in the morning. Like sometimes we'll just have our own side conversations the entire time while you're doing the show. But
I've noticed you're not paying attention.
No, we're paying attention, but we can do 2 things at once. But no, a lot of times if I'm not chatting there, I am listening. I'm probably working on what what I need to do for Pasta to Go and my
Mhm.
other show that I produce, which is called Truth Lives Here.
I know
Um,
Pasta's been doing great. You've been doing great. And I also want to thank you for those custom images that you sent for Hard Lens Media. Really love them. I'm planning on incorporating them soon. I know you're still waiting for that camera photo thing. I'm trying to find a decent photo, camera for that custom photo
well, I mean,
yeah.
you're the one who's going to use it, so you let me know when you need it,
Done
and
deal.
I'll,
I
I'll
know.
try to work on it.
I've been busy. I've been busy with a lot of stuff. Just a lot of stuff's on my table, and I'm trying to clear it all off.
Well,
So there you
for
go.
the audience, this is actually a first for me and Kit. We have talked on the phone before,
Hmm.
but we've actually never been able to like look into each other's eyes and we whisper sweet nothings to each other. So this is the
Oh,
first. So this is the first. Um, and so I was kind of excited because it's, I'm nervous doing a show like this by myself, and it's good to have someone I can talk to and play off of.
I'm glad to be here for as long as I can be.
Okay.
Because I got a couple other projects that I have to do, but I know this is your show. You asked me to be here, and I remember my friends. I remember everyone that stood up for me and has been helping out Hard Lens Media. And to quote Nucky Thompson from Boardwalk Empire, I remember who my friends are. So there you
All
go.
right. So I invited you on just to talk about the Disney stuff, but you're welcome to stay for the whole
I
show if you want
I
to.
I really want
Yeah.
to rip Disney a new one.
So
So lead the way.
okay, okay. Well, we'll get into that, but I just want to let you know I'm not going to kick you off. If you need to if you need to leave, just let me know. You got to go. That's because I got ADD. I could if the show's going well, I could probably go for 5 hours without skipping a beat.
All good.
So
All
you
good.
let me know when it's time to go. You're welcome to stay for everything we're going to talk about. I've got a few
Mhm.
things queued up. We'll just see how it goes. So, all right. Let's go ahead and start this. So we'll try to make this like segments. Maybe I can clip this later. All right, joining me now is Kit from Hard Lens Media. We are going to be talking about the Disney board situation
Mhm.
and that's going on with the Disney Corporation. So, Kit,
Mhm.
I brought you on to talk about this because I know you just absolutely love Disney.
Oh, I
Correct?
love it so
You love
much.
it so much.
Oh, who doesn't love our goose stepping founder, Walt Disney, and his little Skaven? I mean, his little mouse, Mickey.
Well, so I figured you would have some good input on this topic. Now, obviously, I'm joking. So, Kit, I do want to know why is it exactly that you want to see the Disney company burn?
Okay, let's be serious here. The Disney Corporation as a whole is in control, is one of the major corporations that one of the few, there's like 4 or 5, I think now it's 4 now, corporations that control all the media here in the United States. And as a monolith corporation that is not only in control of the media but other aspects of social entertainment and everything else, I feel that it is an institution, as well as the other corporations, that should fall and break because there's no creativity, there's no ingenuity, there is corporate silence and suppression. And with these corporations, not only do they control our media, but they also in many ways control the political discourse in this country. And as a media empire, the Disney narrative, the Disney establishment, the Disney films are constantly feeding us slop. There is no room for the artist or the director to make new content. There's also no room or pathway in which we can truly have freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And because corporations control everything in this country, the Disney empire does have to go. Now, does that mean it's going to fall overnight? No. But what I do want to see is to see this great monopoly be fractured and fall apart. And dare I say it, maybe give rise to a second renaissance of creativity, of free speech, of independent thought. As a corporation, Disney is responsible for the lives lost. And I say lives lost because of the ideas and the people that go to Hollywood to try and get involved in that industry. And we all know the horror stories there. And I'm not going to get Pasta's channel canceled, but I think we all know about, well, people being hurt and abused. And that is as safe as I want to be for Pasta, because Pasta is a good friend of my show. But I think everyone, if I have to explain it to you, then you're going to have to Google it yourselves. But let's just say people throughout the entire time Hollywood's been around have been victims of all sorts of
Yes.
travesty and disasters and, well, just downright vileness and evil. Okay. It's vindictive BS that is there. And when I look at Disney right now, especially now I could get to the little bit more of a fun part, because the serious part, just like, again, the big serious thing, it's one of the corporations controls the media in this country. So of course I want to see it gone.
Yeah.
Now that means I want to see the rise of new film studios. Now, does that mean Disney's going to be gone? No, probably not. They're going to find a way. But another reason why I want Disney gone is because of what it's done to intellectual properties and filmmaking.
Yes.
And how it's put people in a box. Now, the idea of filmmaking and art is to be creative. The idea of telling a movie or a story or anything of that nature, it is to have the audience as a whole observe a film or a product or whatever that's being presented for them, and each of us come away with our own interpretation from it. That's not being allowed in Disney. What's being allowed in Disney is reimaginings, prequels, sequels, reboots to films and franchises that we didn't ask for. And the thing is, there's nothing new coming around, and there's no room for the director to make their films. And I just want to just bring up this story here, for example, right? Because there's a lot of other content creators that talk about movies and filmmaking, what producers and the board of directors do. And, there's just one example here, and I'm gonna make this as filtered as possible. But one story in particular from a very large channel where a guy talked about his experience in Hollywood. He was talking about, handing in a script and sharing it to this big high profile producer with, some women as well that were there. And the guy was asking, hey, is this attractive woman going to be here, or is she going to be there? And when they gave the pictures, he's like, this one's too ugly, this one's too fat, and I banged these two already. I want somebody new. With two women right there. And this is after Weinstein. Okay?
Right.
After Weinstein. So there's a whole bunch of BS there in Disney. So this whole idea of women empowerment or diversity or anything else, like that's all just words, man. They don't believe in any of that stuff that they're pushing down people's throats. And when you have, the Marvel Cinematic Universe tanking, when you have Star Wars tanking, I remember when I was a kid, those were golden intellectual properties. I'm still trying to figure out, how the hell can you take how can you take a goose that lays golden eggs and then have it now become this goose that just does nothing but crap? And the thing is, what it is short-term profit, short-term goal, and then trying to make people feel guilty and not watching their crap. Sort of like how the Democrats make voters feel guilty and not supporting the Democratic establishment. So this is again like a film industry that has destroyed stuff that has been respected. And I don't know how Marvel or Star Wars or Indiana Jones are ever going to rebuild reputations. Either that, even Disney films too, because it seems like either one, they get off on losing and making this crap garbage, or two, they're assuming that people are just going to one day change their mind and be like, okay, well, this is movie making, we love it. It's every time they put out a trailer or a reimagining, it is met with disdain now. Same thing for Star Wars, same thing with the Marvel movies, because there was never a real overall plan of, okay, once we get to this point, what do we do? Now, now, here's the thing. Daniel, shout out to my colleague Daniel, because he corrected me on this one, because we were talking a lot about Marvel, like, hey, how can Marvel ever recover? And this is before they had their constant failures, and this is after the pandemic. And I just said, like, hey, maybe they could have just, like, stopped with Endgame and let, like you're cooking a steak, let the meat rest, and then go ahead and serve it. But they didn't. They never had, because they kept on assuming that they're going to make it ongoing projects over and over and over again. What Disney could have done is let Endgame stop, and then hire a whole bunch of new actors to play these roles of Captain America, Iron Man. I mean, they could have kept on making these movies. They're making films of jabronis, people that are low tier, mid individuals that have no star power. I mean, Captain America, Black Panther, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor. Well, at least Hulk and Thor, I mean, they're still around, but they're not respected. You want to bring in the viewers in. And same thing for Star Wars. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo. What have they been reduced down to? Dudes who are miserable or terrible dads. And I'm like, great. Wow, you had this whole treasure trove of stories from the expanded universe, and you reduce Luke Skywalker and Han Solo into deadbeat scumbags. Yeah, that's going to inspire me, because when I want to watch Star Wars, I want to see, of course, you want Han, Luke, and Leia, and the fact that we had the opportunity to have all three reunite on the big screen, and that was taken away too. So
yes,
like just because I just a few more minutes on my soapbox, because you asked this question, why I want to see it gone. It's because how can I respect a film industry that destroys things that inspired generations, not just Gen Xers, but also boomers, millennials, and to extent Gen Z too. So these are stories that these are our modern mythologies that are supposed to be inspirational to us to be better. Now, no, I'm not going to be Captain America charging down to a field fighting off soldiers, but there's something great where I could escape the dull world and be like, yeah, Captain America charging in there. I love to do that too. I can't do that in real life, but it's inspirational. But no, what they say, oh, Captain America's a sexist, or either that these hero males are toxic. You need to inspire people to make people feel happy and be engaged in a story. I know, controversial, but it's an agenda, and I just don't like it. And that's why when I look at modern films, I embrace their fall. And I look at foreign films now to get good stories. I look at foreign movies. I mean, case in point, I brought this up before, Godzilla -1.
I want to see that.
Dude, you missed out seeing the silver on the big screen, man.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I saw it. I did.
Yeah, because, I know, but I definitely want to see that.
Because okay, it was set in 1945 after the war, right? And I'll just give the floor right back to you. Set in 1945. Now, I speak just a little bit of Japanese, right? But I could relate to the characters, and I don't care if I'm reading the subtitles. I could relate to, and the story was engaging me. It was keeping me in.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about a movie in this day and age, where you can get audience engagement, and it was number 3 in the theaters, in American theaters for quite some time. It was great. I want to give all right, but I'm going to
I heard it was the first Godzilla movie where you actually care about the humans.
Yeah.
Because most of the time I just want to see them all get eaten.
Dude,
I just want to see Godzilla kill everybody and destroy cities and be Godzilla. That's what I want to see.
Oh, he destroys cities, all right, but it's sort of like, oh, okay.
I mean, a couple of the American movies have been good though. Was the last one was pretty good. What was that one? The
Godzilla versus King Kong.
No, that one was good. I did like that one. No, but there was the Mecha one, the one where he fought Mecha Godzilla.
That was Godzilla versus King Kong. Yeah,
Mecha
Godzilla was in there too. So
they had the King of the Monsters was kind of bad, but then the one that followed that was good.
Yeah, it was Godzilla versus King Kong. Yes, I am a Godzilla fan, and I'm proud to say I interviewed Godzilla in the Shinjuku district in 2020. The liberal media smearing him.
Nice. Very nice. Well, I like the reboot. I like the Kong movie. I did not like the King of the Monsters one because it was just too dark and way too close up on the monsters. You couldn't really see them fight. But then Godzilla and King Kong was very good. I enjoyed that one. So I definitely want to rant on Disney.
Good.
I've got rants on. I think what you gave us is a little taste. I want to save that for the end. But let's get in to talking about what's going on with Disney and the shareholders and the Disney board. Because that is the real news story here that I think people want to hear about. And let me take this comment off of the screen. Oh, you know what? I do the stuff off screen for Pasta. I don't know how Pasta, and I don't know how you do like all those managing of the show while you're hosting the show. It's crazy.
Madness.
It is crazy. There's too much. You need a producer, kid, and I know one. Anyhow. Okay, so let's bring this on the stage. Real quick rundown. What this is about is that the annual Disney shareholders are having a meeting, and this meeting is going to happen on April 3rd. And at this meeting, one of the big topics is going to be a vote on adding new board members to the board, because there are activist groups of shareholders who are very upset with the direction of Disney, very much like Kit. They think that this is a company that should be the king of the world, and they have all the properties, they have all this IP, everything they have should be money in the bank, but yet they keep putting out flop after flop. They keep ruining the things that they buy. It's obvious that Disney is creatively bankrupt. They keep raising the prices at their theme parks, making it so regular people can't afford to go. I mean, they're charging more, giving less, and it's all become less quality. Like, so we used to have the Disney difference, and that was part of their reputation that was earned through the 80s and 90s. Like, Disney was the wholesome company, the good company. You could rely on Disney being quality work, but all of that's been squandered in the last decade. And a lot of the shareholders are pissed because the Disney stock has just tanked. So the current Disney board, they don't want to change. But these activist groups coming in, they want to change things up. So this is a quote here. I'm going to read a quote. This is from piratesandprincesses.net, one of their articles by Geeky Sparkles. And the quote is, the current Disney board is being challenged by two activist investor groups, Titan Partners and Blackwell Capital. Ahead of the meeting, the Titan nominees are going to be Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo. So the activist group wants to get these two guys onto the board because they think a change up on the board can actually make a difference in the direction of the company so that they stop running everything into the ground. Now, what I have up here on the screen, this is from the current board. So there's now a fight for the shareholder board of votes. So this is what the current board put up. Then it's a how do you vote for this in this election coming up for the new board members? And so it says your vote matters. And what it's going to say here is it's telling you that they're going to be the white ticket. They want you to vote white, and they say white 1,000 times on this page. You can see it all highlighted and underlined and bold. So to the Disney board, they want you to vote white. To them, white is right, and we know where that goes. That's you're not supposed to be doing all that. So they want you to vote against the Trian and the Blackwell groups to stick with what is already in place. Which to me is a bad idea. Like, you don't vote for the people who have gotten you into, who've put you into this problem, who've got you into the predicament. A lot of the problems we have now are because of the people who are there now. So why would you vote for the people who are there now if the company desperately needs a change? Everybody can see it. The fan base can see it. The audiences can see it. Something needs to change. So this is definitely not the one you want, the ticket you want to vote for. But they put out this cringy video, and I want to watch it with everybody because it's delicious. It is so bad.
Here you go.
Let's go ahead and let's watch it.
Welcome, shareholders.
Wait. Friends, relatives, and esteemed chairman, you're probably wondering what we're all doing here today. Now, let's begin.
Whoa, Professor Ludwig von Drake, slow down there. On April 3rd, the Walt Disney Company will be hosting its annual meeting of shareholders, and we need you to all vote for your board. Over the coming weeks, you'll be receiving your voting materials relating to the white proxy card. You may see them even sooner if you had consented to receiving them by email.
The number of times they say white.
Watch on your inbox.
White.
Professor Ludwig, why don't you tell our shareholders how they can vote?
Yes. Today, we're going to use the Van Drake method.
Professor Ludwig, they don't vote using those kinds of cards. Voting is easy. You can vote electronically or by good old-fashioned mail. Note that if you type in the website address, you'll be asked to provide the control number shown on the white proxy card, so be sure to have it handy. If you access the website using the QR code on the white proxy card or the white Vote Now button on your email,
so
no control number will be
everything's
right.
All
white everything. All white everything. Each count will have a separate control number specific to the white proxy card. All electronic votes have to be submitted no later than 11:59 p.m. on April 2nd, 2024. If you hold shares in the Disney Employee Plan, please note the earlier voting deadline indicated on your white voting instruction form. Remember, it's important you vote only for Disney's 12 nominees using the white proxy card. Do not vote for the Trian Group or Blackwell's nominees. Voting this year is critical, no matter how many or how few shares you may own. Professor Ludwig, what should the shareholders do with their blue and green proxy cards?
I want
He's on
properties
the
to be
I do not need the standard warranty.
Well, shareholders may simply discard them. Please do not use the blue or green proxy cards.
A difficult question for the professor?
Thank you, Professor. I think our shareholders are now well informed on how to vote for their board. Remember, it's important you vote only for Disney's 12 nominees using the white proxy card. Do not vote for the Trian Group or Blackwell's nominees. We thank you for supporting Disney. If you have any questions about voting your shares, please call our proxy solicitor, Innisfree M&A Incorporated.
So I'll leave that up for you in case you are a Disney shareholder and you want to vote. But don't vote for these people. We need a change at Disney.
All white everything by Yo Gotti.
Yep.
All I can help is think of that song, Married to the Game. She even got a wedding ring. All white everything. So first of all, I do find it funny that the duck is German. No association. No association to Walt fascination with a guy first name Adolf, last name Hitler. Never ask how good old Walt Disney felt about the Third Reich. Don't find that out, folks. Yeah,
it's funny. Like even Abigail Disney said that he was borderline fascist, and some people,
of course, he was.
Some people who agree with us think that she's crazy, but like, wait, no, he was rabidly anti-communist, and and they know that. And fascists and communists are just polar opposites. They're political rivals.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, he was definitely borderline fascist, but I can't say he was a fascist, but I don't think Abigail Disney was wrong to say that. Not at all.
Yeah. So, okay. But by the way, so Mr. Boston is saying on the chat, he didn't support the Nazis, but he did respect them. Well, I don't know. Respect, support. I mean, I don't know. He was kind of on board with them. But anyways,
well, everybody was in the 1930s. There's a lot of people that were supporting Nazis in 1930.
Oh, of course, man. Of course. Like never ask about Prescott Bush. Never ask about good old man Kennedy. I mean, I'm talking about the old man Kennedy, the one who did some pretty shady things, especially to his daughter. But anyways,
most people didn't know about the concentration camps until late 1941 or early 1942. And even then, they didn't even believe they were real until they saw the footage at the end of the war.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like what's going on today, which we won't talk about because this is family friendly.
But when you look at just how Disney is, why this is important, what's happening with the shareholders and everything, it's because in many ways you have to remember that even Disney is owned, and BlackRock has its control over a lot of institutions here. And the thing is, even if a movie does flop, it is still like money that will still be collected because there's a thing called debt, and debt is profitable for those who play this game of, well, 7 figures or higher. And screw $1 million, $10 to these people. But anyways, like they play this game back and forth. So all this money lost, I mean, for them, it's not a true loss until people really do stop going in. I mean, right now there is a little bit of a problem because what the current board of directors have to do now is convince not only their shareholders, but even their bosses, like their the higher echelon people, that they could still do the job. And the thing is, they can't, because look at the buying power of the American people, look at the buying power of viewers, and also look at people's attention spans. I mean, we have the Library of Alexandria at our fingertips here, and we're able to be entertained more so than we ever were in the 90s or even early 2000s, because we have access to so many content on YouTube or any other social media platform. And not to mention, there's the streaming platforms too. And going to a movie theater now, especially even to earn the profit that a lot of these films used to take, or at least what these studios used to take for granted for, it's no longer there. But what they did, especially these corporate jagoffs, is, they assume that people would feel guilty or be guilted into going. But when you have even the actors and actresses put in their 2 cents, like, I get it. Everyone has an opinion. This is true. But when you start shaming or making audience members cringe, then people won't show up. When you have people say, well, don't come to this movie. It's not for you. This movie wasn't made for you. This movie, you wouldn't understand this movie. Then me as a potential customer, I'm like, well, okay, you just told me I'm not invited, then I'm not going to show up. People will listen to that and be like, okay, fine, we won't show up. You're just not going to guilt people into showing. It's like that. What film? There was, and not to mention, there's also movies that are flopping too. When you have the actress for the Snow White reboot that has Gal Gadot on it or something, right? And they did a reimagining of the 7 dwarves as like 7 little people. They're not even dwarves. And it's
they're
just
like magical creatures.
Yeah, magical creatures. Like, wait a minute.
Everyone thinks this Snow White remake is a terrible idea.
Well, it's dumb. It's already been told. And when you have the actor be like, well, she did a terrible job selling it. Okay, she didn't do herself or her career any favors by being cringe.
Oh, I can't think of the name of the actress right now.
Hang on. I'll find it for you. Snow White actress.
Her name was Mud like about a month ago. They told me
Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, Rachel Zegler. I'm pretty sure the higher ups told her to keep her mouth shut because every time she would open it, it would just make it worse and worse and worse. I'm wondering. I think the movie's going to still come out, but they not too long ago they posted an image of Snow White with the 7 dwarfs to try to assure people that no, we're going to take care of this property and do right by it. But the reason a lot of people are upset is Snow White has a special place in Disney, in the Disney canon, in the Disney lore. I mean, this was the movie that turned the Disney company into the Disney company, and they don't want to see like this. If you're going to make a live action version of it, it needs to be faithful to the original, and that's clearly not what they're doing. From all of the reporting and what we've seen in the media, the leaks and everything. So there are reports that they're reworking the movie, but I think most people would rather see them just scrap it, just forget about it.
Well, they did that. They did that with the Batgirl film. Apparently, it was so bad that they had to like forget this. Like, but that was Warner Brothers who did that.
But they had the nerve to do it. They realized, let's do this. Although I wish somebody would leak it out to like just DVD release only, so we could watch it like that Fantastic Four movie from the '90s. Which
but see,
that's better than the last one.
But see, that's Roger Corman, and we know what to expect from Roger Corman. Okay, and you know what?
The costumes are really good in that movie. I really like them.
My favorite scene from that Fantastic Four movie is when they use the stock footage of an atomic bomb blasting, and then Dr. Doom says to the Fantastic Four, and he does it like this. Hold on. So imagine me with like Dr. Doom with a mask on. You will have 12, and he writes 12 on the screen, but it's like backwards. So obviously you're watching me like I'm like 12, and he says, and he underlines it. You have 12 hours to give me the device, and I'm like, bravo, Dr. Doom. Not only did you say 12 hours, you wrote it like this: 12 hours. And if you think I'm joking, it is a work of art. I loved it. And if Roger Corman gave that a thumbs up, and it was just like because he could have said like, oh, we just didn't have time to do it. But if Roger Corman gave that a thumbs up, honestly, brilliant. Fantastic. And if I'm ever in a big silver screen movie, I am going to do everything in my power to write 12 like that. Just in homage, then honor Dr. Doom from Fantastic Four 1994. I
do like that movie and for what it is and how cheesy it is. I mean, really, that movie was just made just so they could keep rights on because they were the same ones that did the early cartoon. But and so it was meant to be a write-off from the beginning. But I mean, Fantastic Four, we can talk about that later. Let's keep going with this Disney board stuff. So we saw that video that was released. This was about a month ago. Well, Nelson Peltz and the Trian Group responded to this. I don't actually have any video of this, but they did write a letter, and I'll just read the letter. I won't read this whole article. This is again from piratesandprincesses.net. Cambria Pratt, also known as Geeky Sparkles, is the author of this article. So this was a response letter to the shareholders, and we'll just go ahead and read the letter. This was on February 1st. Dear fellow Walt Disney Company shareholders, the Trian Group owns more than 3 billion shares of the Walt Disney Company. Like you, we are enthusiastic owners of this iconic company because we believe Disney is the leading media and entertainment business with outstanding assets. Beloved franchises like Star Wars and Marvel, Disney and Pixar animation studios, which produce some of the greatest films of all time, theme parks and cruise lines that attract millions of people from around the world each year, and Disney Plus, an emerging streaming giant with a library of enviable content. Well, it's got a library, that's for sure, but it's kind of limited. Once you've seen what you want to see, there's not much else there. And the new stuff they're putting out, is it worth it?
No, it's not. But you did bring up a good question about tax write-offs. I mean, for all we know, these flops could be just write-offs, because we don't know how bad or how much in debt Disney truly is in.
But you don't make this many flops to write it off. I mean, that's still costing them money.
It is, yeah, true.
So despite Disney occupies a unique place in the hearts of millions of people in its deep history of captivating stories while creating unforgettable experiences. Despite Disney's enviable and unique position in media and entertainment, its stock price is half of what it was less than 3 years ago. And Disney shareholders, like you and us, have collectively lost nearly $200 billion of our own investments in that time period. Disney's recent creative efforts have disappointed its once loyal customer base and have caused losses for shareholders. Disney was forced to cut its dividends and only recently restored it. Meanwhile, shareholders missed out on more than $12 billion in expected distributions between 2020 and 2023. Disney stock is down over the last one, 3 and 5 years. In fact, over those time periods, Disney's total shareholder return, the TSR, has significantly underperformed the stocks of other media and entertainment companies, despite Disney's superior assets, capabilities, and businesses. Disney's TSR has underperformed the S&P 500 by a wide margin over each of those time periods, too. 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, you would have been far better served investing in an index fund like the S&P 500 or in a basket of Disney's self-selected peers than in Disney itself. Instead, you like us have been caught in the Disney mousetrap. With so many powerful and competitive advantages, why has Disney cost its shareholders so much? The simple answer: Disney has lost its way. And I think you and I absolutely agree with this. Like, as fans of these properties, what can we say? I'm just going to read the top of the bullet list. I'm not going to go into details here. So the company has creative engine that stalled. Yes, they're creatively bankrupt. We've already talked about that. Disney Plus, the emerging streaming business, has been poorly managed. Absolutely. Why do we have Hulu and Disney Plus? They keep raising the prices on this, but they're not really adding new content. All that stuff needs to be smushed together for one package deal. And they need to stop nickel and diming their customers. ESPN is challenged and lacks a clear strategy. Yes. It's part of cable. Cable's a dying medium. Live sports is I think is changing in the future. Where is ESPN going to fit in that? Other than they're kind of like legacy media like CNN, that just, they're like a freight train. They're going to die, but it's going to take them forever to stop. Prices have gone up in the parks, even as investments have been deferred. Again, they just keep raising prices and prices. It's so expensive, you can't really afford, for a regular family, to go anymore. It's like a
regular family of four. A regular family of four won't even exist anymore. That's crazy
true.
it is.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have money for it.
Yeah, it's gone. Like the whole I'm glad I was able to enjoy Disney once when I was in Japan. I was actually in Japan, Disney World Japan, a long time ago, 1998. But anyways, like Disney, I mean, I'm glad I was able to enjoy Disney when I was a kid, just maybe a few times here and there. But I mean, at this point, who can go to the theme park when it's going to cost an arm and a leg, literally, to go there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't even want to go back to Disney anymore. I do want to go to Universal, the new studio they're making. Looks cool.
Okay, sounds good.
Anyway, let's continue. As a result of these and other issues, despite spending $200 billion since 2018 on assets and acquisitions, such as the purchase of 21st Century Fox, Disney's financial performance has suffered. Operating income, free cash flow, and earnings per share have declined by 18%, 50%, and 85% respectively since 2018. In our view, Disney's strategic missteps and declining financial performance can be laid at the feet of its board, which we believe lacks focus, alignment, and accountability. So they explain how they lack focus and how they lack this alignment and accountability. Actually, let me read the alignment section because I think that one's the most interesting here. So the lack of alignment. Disney's non-management directors have amassed great personal wealth. So they've been paying executives instead of who aren't showing that they deserve to get the pay, having received the aggregate more than $700 million in compensation from their jobs at companies other than Disney during the tenures on the Disney board. Yet, despite their significant resources and sizable investment portfolios, Disney's 11 non-management directors appear to have so little faith in Disney's future that they have purchased a total less than $350,000 of Disney stock during their tenures. So the people on the board managing the shares for the shareholders don't even own the shares themselves. And that should be you'd think that should be a requirement to be on the board, but some of them own none, and the ones that do own very little. So 9 of them have never bought a single share during their tenure. Relative to their wealth, they have almost no skin in the game. Meanwhile, the Disney CEO, Bob Iger, has sold nearly all of his Disney stock, reaping
big red flag
in cash of more than $1 billion. Today, he is left owning comparatively few shares. So it's almost like they're running the company into the ground so they can buy the stock really low, and then they're going to rebuild it and they can make a ton of money. At least you could say that's a plan. It's not like we've never seen that happen before.
Of course.
So the lack of accountability also means that people who who fail aren't being punished and they're staying on like Kathleen Kennedy. So we do not believe the current board can solve Disney's problems. To restore the magic, we need a new perspective, fresh thinking, and tangible goals. We certainly do not expect the same board that has sat idle watching Disney's decline to suddenly change and have the drive to fix Disney. So to ensure a better future for this great company, we, its owners, must act. We are therefore asking you to elect 2 new independent directors, Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo, to the Disney Board of Directors. And Nelson Peltz, he beneficially owns more than $3 billion of Disney stock. That's just ridiculous. Just $3 billion of Disney stock. Think about how much money he's got to have more just beyond that. That's nuts. He is one of the most experienced directors in corporate America, having served on more than a dozen public company boards, including 2 world-class companies and household names like Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Wendy's, H.J. Heinz, and Mondelez. I think that's how you say that. During his tenure on these other boards, he has helped create tremendous value for shareholders and drive important investments, including leadership success, management, compensation realignment, and organizational improvements and operational turnarounds. He's got a pretty good track record being a leader of the board. Jay Rizzullo, he beneficially owns more than $600,000 of Disney stocks. He is a Disney veteran who spent 3 decades at the company in a variety of roles, including 5 years as chief financial officer. During his tenure as CFO, Disney stock prices increased by more than 250%, and the company paid more than $8 billion in dividends to shareholders. Prior to being appointed chief financial officer, Mr. Rizzullo ran Disney's parks and resorts businesses, during which time the parks and resorts divisions delivered constant revenue and operating income. So he was there while the company was successful, and this is one of the people they want to put on the board. And also a good thing to note about Jay Rizzullo, he was in line to have Bob Iger's job. But I think one reason he was asked to retire was so he wouldn't get that job, because Bob Iger wanted to keep it. Real change is needed. There is much to be done to revive Disney, delight consumers again, and drive value for its owners. Disney's current directors do not want our candidates inside the boardroom. Perhaps they do not want the hard questions and focus on shareholder value. The Disney board is seeking to exclude them and appease shareholders with its own appointments, adding 2 new hand-selected directors that were chosen without shareholder input. You should be wary of cosmetic change orchestrated by the same directors who have consistently failed shareholders. If elected, Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo will seek to work diligently and collaboratively with the other Disney directors and management to initiate a board-led review of the company's creative process and structure so that Disney can once again claim its #1 position at the box office, while consistently delivering industry-leading content and Disney hallmarks, which they haven't been doing probably since Endgame. Insist that management finally develop and implement an executable plan for the streaming business in order to achieve Netflix-like levels of profitability. Have the leadership team commit to a detailed plan that includes a reasonable payback period and return profile, all future investments in the direct-to-consumer ESPN business. Press management to disclose the expected returns on the $60 billion of announced investments in the parks and experiences business. Align pay and performance for the company's senior leaders by tying compensation to clear, measurable, and ambitious goals. That one, I think, is extremely important. Like, why are you paying these execs huge sums of money as the company keeps failing year after year? And finally, execute a successful CEO succession process while cultivating a deep bench of capable and next generation leaders. So they've got a plan. It's clear. I mean, these guys, they care about Disney, and I've got some other stuff like that. I don't know if we'll play it, but they talk about how they're Disney people through and through. We encourage you to vote for Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo using the instructions on the enclosed blue proxy card to enable them to pursue this ambitious agenda. To make room for Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo on the board, you also need to withhold your vote on the 2 board's current directors. We strongly recommend shareholders withhold on incumbent directors Michael Foreman and Maria Elena Longomancino. I hope I'm saying that. Withhold on Michael B.G. Foreman and I don't really want to go into. They just think those people are awful. So, all right. So we're asking you to withhold on these candidates. Nominate. Oh, they're also so. It's important to understand too that Blackwell Capital is a separate activist group that wants to get their own people on the board. So the Triang Group, who is Nelson Peltz and Rizzullo, want to withhold their votes on the 3 candidates nominated by Blackwell, and together they can restore the magic at Disney. Vote by using the enclosed blue proxy card. So they want you to vote blue no matter who.
Oh boy.
Versus vote white. And the Mickey gloves are off people. What do you think? Comment and let us know. So that was their big letter to the shareholders, which they followed up again with an even more detailed letter that's got damning statistics on how the Disney company has been working and through these last 5 years, at least since 2018. So what do you think about that letter? Are you excited to vote for those 2 guys?
I'm not excited at all. As far as I'm concerned, what this looks like is a way to try and build up some assurances amongst people who are very afraid. I mean, the fact that you have the higher echelon leadership that already sold out most of their shares, it tells me that they want to see the great Disney empire not only collapse, but buy the shares at a far lower price so they can go back to buying up more properties and more things again, so they could once again be on top and do the system all over again. But the problem is that they might not be able to get what they want, because all in all, I mean, the whole idea of Hollywood as a system is it cannot be self-contained, because everything that in Hollywood, if we look at what Hollywood truly is, it's a realm of smoke and mirrors. It's all false. It's all fake. None of it's real. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
And what I mean by this is that this whole thing that Hollywood has built its foundation on, it's shaky ground. It is doomed for a full-on collapse. And when you have customers, average people, not tuning in or coming in as much, then of course the whole value of Disney could go down drastically. And what I do hope is that we do see a pushback. Oh, Mastermind. Oh, I got you, man.
Sorry,
don't worry, I got you. I got you, Mastermind. I got you. But look, all what can be said about this entire letter is that there's fear and panic, because they could put on a brave face, but shit rolls downhill. But the thing is, everyone that's at the bottom of that little palace, I mean, they're not responsible. It's all the people up there now who have to right now find a way to correct course the entire ship. And none of these people in charge, controversial statement 3, are serious people. When you have somebody like Kathleen Kennedy, who destroys everything that George Lucas made.
Let's save that for rants.
Yeah, exactly. and we will save this for a rant. But the fact that she's still in her position, it tells me a couple of things. One, she has blackmail material on a lot of people. Maybe she probably knows. Okay, allegedly, maybe. Very, very correct. She might know where the bodies are buried. Maybe. But all I know is that Mickey's got to make his little phone call to the people. Where's my money? Bob? Where's the money? What's going on? What's happening to my company?
Well, that's a better Mickey Mouse impression than I can do. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, all I know is that Mouse is probably wondering what's happening to my money and how come I'm not making more of it. Everything's hemorrhaging, and I truly am grateful that myself, and not only a lot of people, have been proven correct on the downfall of Disney. Because, you know, when you're trying to be inclusive, and I get it, because Hollywood rarely, you know, it's always pandered to people, and people want to be included, and I get it. See stories of different people, different perspectives and points of view, but when you shoehorn it in or stuff it in front of people's faces, it's going to get rejected. If you're looking for creativity, if you're looking to tell your story, then you're going to have to save up every single red cent that you have and be independent, and don't go to Hollywood, because the whole idea of Disney right now, it's just to make a message, but it's so ham-fisted in that it fails to deliver whatever they were trying to do. When I see 100-pound woman trying to throw a 250-pound man, like, the suspension is like, okay, can that really happen in real life? No. And then also, like, all the breaking down of the missiles. When you have Taika Waititi, or however you say his name, saying, I'm going to destroy when you have a director go ahead and start attacking fans and say, I will destroy your mythos. Well, dude, first of all, I mean, it's not your intellectual. When it's not your intellectual property to begin with. And two, you know, Disney put you in charge of a very high profile character,
right?
And And I think
you're supposed to be a steward of that property. You're not supposed to just deconstruct it. You're supposed to add to it and deliver to the fan base what they know and love. It's not yours. You can't ruin it. You have to take care of it. You are being trusted with this thing.
But also the thing is, I think Hollywood and obviously in the entertainment industry thinks people are stupid. And while we could talk about the intelligence and whether or not we're getting dumber and we're becoming idiocracy, I mean, there's one thing that people can do is if they're sick of something, they won't go to it anymore. And if people lose respect for it, then they're not going to want to be seen associated with. I mean, case in point, I think was Chris Hemsworth's kids. We asked them about Thor. You know what he said? One of his kids said, "Yeah." Well, the short story of it is that they didn't like how Thor was being all comedic, and they were more or less saying like, "Hey, he's a joke. We can't take him seriously anymore." So, and kids are brutal critics, man.
Man, you're going to sidetrack me because I would love to talk about these Thor movies. I always confess I really like Ragnarok. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies.
It was different,
but I love it. I think it's great. Like,
it was different, but it was still part of the Endgame universe. So that means it still wasn't there. But the next one that came out, I mean, there was nothing but attempts to make joke after joke after joke. It's like, can we be serious?
I liked. There were definitely parts about it I liked. I liked the costumes. I love they went classic comic book costumes, and I think Natalie Portman actually did a good job. I don't think she
really
movie at all. Yeah, I think she did a good job in the role. Well, she did well with what she was given to work with.
Okay,
but that doesn't mean the script was great. I think the part with where they went and met Odin, or not Odin, Zeus. That was really kind of tacky. I didn't like the way that was all done. But anyway, let's not get too sidetracked on Thor. Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you just said there. Like it's a shame. But let me give a little bit more insight into who Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo are. I'm not going to read this whole article. I just want to read you just what they say about the Disney company. And then this is they put out a whole video. It's pretty long. I think it's about an hour long. These two guys, these are Rizzullo and Nelson Peltz. And they put out a video talking about why they want to be on the board and what their vision for the future of Disney is. But I want to read these two quotes. It kind of shows you, how they actually feel about Disney, which I think is a good thing. So Nelson Peltz said, "We want Disney to be great again, make America great. Make Disney great again. I grew up with Disney. I have 10 kids. They all grew up with Disney. I have he has 10 kids. Oh, wow. I didn't catch that.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
He's been busy. Get off your wife, dude.
I know. That just says, oh, man, he's like the Duggars. I have such a great fond memories of Disney, not just the parks, but the movies and all the other wonderful things that they have to offer. And it's a company that is iconic. That's what this company is. And it truly has lost its way. So, I mean, he goes on more about Disney. And he really does convey the fact that he loves Disney. He knows Disney as a fan. He cares, and he does not want to see this company implode, and he thinks it's imploding. So Rizzullo had his thoughts as well, and he said, "I spent 30 years of my life working at the Disney company. It was a joy. Every day, it was a pleasure to know that you were creating a part of the magic and distributing and offering that magic to families around the world. In my last 15 years at the company, I spent 10 years running the theme parks division and around the world. Prior to that, I was at Euro Disney, and in my last 5 years, I was chief financial officer of the company, which was an incredible experience. All the businesses, it was incredible to experience all the businesses beyond the parks." So he also goes on later and says, okay, I don't know if this part of the quotes here, but he also goes on to say, like, he and his wife his wife is a Disney wife. His family is a Disney family. Like, they've been part of the company their entire lives. They love it. They're Disney. They bleed Disney, is what Jay Rizzullo was trying to say. So unlike you, don't have quite so much passion for the destruction of Disney. I don't care about Disney as a company, and I am annoyed that they're one of the few big major corporations in America that owns all the media. But I do care about the intellectual property that Disney has acquired. So, I mean, like, I wore my Star Wars shirt because we're talking about Disney tonight. I mean, I've been a Star Wars fan for a long time. I've never been in love with Star Wars. I just like it.
Mhm.
You know the difference. So like during the prequel era, I kind of had a falling out and like took a step back for a little while, but the Clone Wars sucked me back in. Anyway, I'm also, but I'm a much bigger Marvel fan,
Right.
and like if I turn my camera around here, you'll see like my action figure collection.
That's cool,
So
man.
I've got tons of it. Uh, so it's breaking my heart to see what they've done with Marvel.
Mhm.
And the thing is, I like a lot of these characters they're putting on screen. Like I know there's a lot of people complain about the Captain Marvel, but I like the character of Carol Danvers. I have her first appearance in the comic books. I have her entire first run of Miss Marvel in comic book form. I mean, it's always a character I thought was really cool. She was one of the lesser known characters that didn't really catch on in the 70s, and it took like 20 years for her to get going. But then they anyway, so I wanted to like that movie, and I just could not. I don't like the fact they cast Brie Larson for that role, and I didn't like the really how that
Terrible
movie
casting
went.
choice, by the way.
Yeah, I mean the movie, the Captain Marvel movie isn't horrible, but it wasn't great, and I didn't even bother seeing the Marvels. So what I want to see happen is if Disney doesn't sell off the properties I love, like Star Wars and Marvel, then I want there to be people in control who are going to do right by those properties. They're going to protect the canon and
I
deliver stuff that we want to see and care about. And with the current situation, I have no faith that that's going to happen.
I have to agree. So let me explain why I agree, why I think what's going to happen. It's going to be pretty sad for those of us who remembered, or at least remembers the golden era of entertainment and what these intellectual properties meant to a lot of us, and that is you're going to take the advice of George Lucas and Rich Evans from Red Letter Media. So George Lucas, of course, founder of Star Wars and Lucasfilm and all that stuff. And then there's Rich Evans from, Red Letter Media. And that is, you just got to divorce yourself from it. You just got to realize that you got to let it go. We're living in a day and age where all your favorite franchises are dying, and it must make way for something new. And it's not that there can't be a course correction, but I don't see the pathway right now where people see the true value, and those who control it see the true value
right
of what Marvel and Lucasfilm intellectual films and property and games really mean to people. And
right.
we have to, I think, let it go, because Hollywood, again, once it gets its claws on something, if you don't protect what you do create, and let's say you do make it big in the film industry, they will do everything they can to twist it and pervert it and corrupt it into something that it never was what it was, because you have people making Marvel films that don't even read the comics.
They don't know the source material.
Yeah, so they don't know. So if they don't care, and these are the owners of it, because the original founders, even George Lucas he said, I divorced myself from Star Wars. I have to walk away. And when you have a divorce, it's a full-on clean break. Like, that's it. You go your separate ways.
Yeah. Well, that's how it happened with George.
Okay. George managed to get, like, he cashed it in, but see, the thing, I bet he has the seller's remorse though.
Oh, I think
because of how it's all been run down. So,
but it seemed like a good deal at the time. They made him a lot of promises they didn't keep. Like they said he gave them the treatments for what Star Wars 7, 8, 9 should be, and they just threw them in the trash.
Of course.
Like Kathleen Kennedy, everybody thought she was going to be a great steward of the property because she was there from the beginning.
No, she was only there for the. Listen, the only relevance Kathleen Kennedy has is that she was good at delivering coffee and interrupting meetings.
I think it's clear now she never was a fan of Star Wars. She was a fan of what Star Wars meant to the film industry. But I don't think she's a fan of the property at all. She
was a fan of what the film's success would do for her, and when she would one day sit in the driver's seat, because she was around all these guys who kept on dismissing her ideas, and then when she finally got into power, she decided to crap out her ideas, and they weren't that good in the first place. I mean, have you heard that video where Steven Spielberg talks about her and how she interrupted like the meetings? And
no, I haven't seen that.
Okay, so there's one video out there on YouTube where Steven Spielberg says, she was good at giving us coffee and taking notes, but she would always drop down her pen and add in her 2 cents. Like, what if he doesn't get the girl, but he gets a dog instead? Like, what do you mean? Come on, the guy's got to save the girl at the end. Why not? Like, are you the director? Are you part of the storyboard? Like, get out of here, man.
All right, let's wrap this segment up. I've got one last thing to talk about, and then we'll rant on Disney. You know what? We'll rant for about 20 minutes. I'll set a timer, okay? Because I would like to talk about the other stories I got here too. All right, the last part of this. Let's see. Okay, so the last part of this is, with this vote going on, there's an actual legal website where Disney shareholders are auctioning off their proxy votes. So if you're a shareholder and you're not going to vote, you can make some money off your vote. You can go out there and share it. And here's the website, and it's called what is it called? The Shareholder Vote Exchange. So this is where you can go and sell your votes for the April 3rd meeting. And to me, this seems like it should be illegal. First of all, I don't know if they know for sure who is the one buying these votes, if it's the Tryon Group, if it's Blackwell, or if it's the current Disney board. But if you don't care, what do you have to lose? You can make a few bucks, just put your votes up here. But the thing is, I think they got to get 500,000 votes in order to be able to buy it. So, but you'll get like a part of that. And I just think that's pretty funny that's how serious this business is. Like, people are interested in buying votes to try to keep Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo off the board. So, or at least that's what I think. I think these are the Disney people doing this, but it's not 100% sure exactly who is going to be the one buying these votes. But
wow,
doesn't that seem like that should be illegal? Like
it should be, but you know what? we're in America, so if you're rich, you could just buy off the system. So that's how it is.
Yeah, it should be. Well, that's what's going on. We got about just less than a month before that vote takes place. I'm very interested to see how it pans out. I do want to see Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo get on the board, because I do think they'll make a difference and they'll fix things. And hopefully Disney can be a company I can like again. But if they don't,
not going to happen.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I still like old Star Wars, but and I still want to like Marvel, but Disney's making it very difficult these days.
I think what will happen with the entire Disney Corporation is that there will be a massive sell-off of a lot of things that Disney owns, such as theme parks, such as territory, such as film rights, and intellectual rights there too, because there's only so long that they can keep their little party afloat until it finally stops. And there aren't serious people in there. I mean, if there were serious people running the Disney Corporation, this goes for all the movies that they are releasing, all the TV shows that they're putting on their streaming services, there would be some sort of checks and balances and accountability. And because people are so used to the free flow of money, because people are used to playing the game of politics in Hollywood, that there was never an attempt to really rein in the madness and the not to mention the madness, but the nepotism, the abuse of power, and overall the control a lot of these Hollywood execs have over that entire studio area. It's a realm of fear. And when you're afraid to be creative, when you're afraid to say no, this is a bad idea, all what you're going to be surrounding yourself are yes men's, suck ups, and people who will not challenge power, but in fact will be waiting in the shadows so that they can have their chance in the driver's seat, so they could surround themselves with yes men and suck ups.
Yeah. And I think there's a political motivation behind this too, because Disney is viewed as a very important part of the culture of America. Mm-hmm. And if you get political actors in these positions running this company, mm-hmm. then they can be there, as Disney can be a shaper of the minds of America. Then these political actors can be trying to shape the minds of America in the way that they want to kind of encourage them to vote a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I definitely think that's something that's kind of part of this.
They're trying, but they're failing.
I do think they're failing. Yeah. I do think they're failing, but it's definitely something that is happening. And I just want them to focus on making good stuff that I want to watch and enjoy. So last word, and then we'll wrap it up. I'll give you the last word.
Okay, so final word for this, folks. let us witness firsthand overall how a major corporation has literally crept the bed. For a long time, I think we've been bombarded with the imagery from Hollywood that these are individuals that know how to run a company, that know the film industry. And the thing is, this should inspire you at home. If you want to become a filmmaker or creator or something of that nature, this should inspire you not to look to Hollywood as a land of opportunity, but look at what you can do to be creative and bring in your own input, to have your own view, to bring in that second renaissance. And I do think that we are due for a second renaissance of filmmaking and creativity with the death and decline of the establishment film industry. Now, does that mean Hollywood will lose its place as being an area where people can go to make it big? No, but that's not going to stop people from trying to do their own thing. And I truly embrace it. I want to see the end of the stranglehold that these corporations have over the American landscape. It's got to end. And if our politicians won't do it, then the system's got to collapse under its own weight. And I say, let's burn it down.
That's a good way to end it. All right. Well, thanks for watching this segment, everybody. We're going to take a quick break and welcome. This is Pasta with Cheese. I'm Cheeseslice with Kit Cabello from Heartlands Media.
I'm gonna have to head on out too, as well, my friend.
Thanks for joining me. I told you we could go on for a while. I'm going to rant on Disney by myself and maybe get some comments from the chat. But thanks for coming. I really enjoyed your commentary. And this is.
You did. Hey,
Pasta with Cheese. I don't have a sign out yet.
Everyone, give him a thumbs up right now. Okay, right now, do it today. And thank you so much for inviting me on. And also, Pasta. Look, deep dish pizza is superior. How dare you disrespect my Costco pizza?
Oh, no.
How dare you disrespect my Costco pizza, Pasta? But I came onto your show, and you know what? I took over for a little bit because that's just how we do it, Chicago style.
All right, I got a quick question though. What about your pants check? Are you
Pajamas
pants?
Pajamas.
Pajama. Well, hey, I will give you a pass for pajama pants. See, on Pasta to Go, we wear shorts. Like real newsmen.
There you go.
We wear shorts. Shorts.
Caught me lacking today. Everyone caught me lacking today.
You haven't quite hit 40 yet, Kit. So I know you just had a birthday. Happy birthday, by the way.
39.
You got one more year to go when you get to the age where you don't care anymore. You're just like, you know what? Me being comfortable is more important than me blinding you with my white legs.
There you go.
So pants are the devil.
There you go. And Miguel H, it was Trey. It was Trey the whole time. All right, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, Kit. This was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday on your show.
Done deal.
I'll be watching. I'll be watching everybody. So
all right, cool.
All right, bye.
Head on out.
All right, that was Kit. That was fun, man. We did an hour on that. Oh wow. Well, there was a lot to talk about. Kit got to rant a little bit, but I want to rant too. I was holding back. I was letting Kit do his thing. So if you've got some rants that you want to make about Disney, now's the time. I am going to be looking at the chat and interacting with you. And if you got some things to say, I will definitely bring it up. But one of the things I should have talked about this with Kit before he left, was this. There's a rumor that came out today about The Mandalorian. So the future of Star Wars is kind of weak right now, but one of the things they've announced is that they're going to put out a Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Well, today the rumor was this. It came from Doomcock, the Overlord DVD channel. So the Mando and Grogu movie is going to be a bait and switch. So the person who came up with this, or who's sharing the rumor, says that they think that Disney's about to screw up again, because what they are going to do is sell this movie as a Mandalorian movie starring Din Djarin and Grogu, who are the Mandalorian and the main characters. But they're going to actually make it be a Katie Sackhoff movie who's playing the character of Bo-Katan, who is another Mandalorian. Because this title of the movie is The Mandalorian, it doesn't say exactly who the Mandalorian is. Now, I have a little bit of issue with this because because of the bait and switch. I don't actually mind the idea of having Katie Sackhoff star in a movie as Bo-Katan to do a Bo-Katan movie. I think that's fine. But I have a big problem with them advertising the movie as a story about Mando and Grogu and then having it be about Bo-Katan. If you want to make a Bo-Katan movie, make a Bo-Katan movie. This bait and switch crap has got to stop. It's not just Disney doing it. Like they did this with the or with the Masters of the Universe He-Man show, where it turned into like the first episode had He-Man and they killed it, and then Tila died. Well, I wanted to watch a Masters of the Universe show. I wasn't tuning in to watch the Tila show. Now, that's not saying I wouldn't watch the Tila show. I think Tila was a cool character from the old Masters of the Universe days. But if you sold it to me that it was going to be, hey, this is the show about what happens to the Masters of the universe if He-Man dies and then Tila has to take charge, I would have been okay with that. I would have been interested in chiming in. But that was a bait and switch. And then that show did not do very well in its first season. And I'm kind of hoping the second season doesn't do well either, even though the artwork and the animation is great. Just because I'm so angry about that. And this movie, if they do this in this movie, like I said, this is a rumor, so we don't know if it's true, but they kind of did it in Mandalorian season 3. Not that I mind. I like Katie Sackhoff. I like the character of Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan is a very flawed character. She's anything but a Mary Sue. And we're seeing her at a point in her life where she's finally getting her stuff together and she's going through her redemption arc. But if you watched her character from the beginning in the Clone Wars, she was on the wrong side of the issue, and her actions led to the death of her sister. She got her mind right though and switched over to being to taking up her role as Mandalorian royalty. So after her sister's death, she did step up and she tried to rule the Mandalorian people, but she failed at it. So this is a character who's gone through a lot of adversity, and she's got a long history to be where she's at. And all of her skill comes from hardship and hard work. So I like this character of Bo-Katan, and I think Katie Sackhoff's doing a great job. And I liked how they used her in The Mandalorian season 3, although a lot of people think season 3 fell off. I agree. It's not as good as season 1 and 2, but I think it's still good. It's just not nearly as good as seasons 1 and 2. So anyway, if this rumor is true, and they're going to replace Din Djarin with Bo-Katan, it's going to piss me off. But it's not because they're having a movie starring a woman. It's because they don't have the confidence and just advertise it as a movie starring a woman. They're going to do another bait and switch. And this is the kind of crap that they've been doing over and over and over for years. And it's just got to stop. So that's one piece about Disney I want to rant about. But I'd like to see if anybody in the chat it cares about this as much as I do. So I know Kit did. That's definitely why I wanted to invite him on. But it's not just Disney doing this. You've got the other companies doing it as well. You're seeing it at Warner Brothers. You're seeing it with Star Trek. And it's just frustrating when you see things that you love just getting treated in such a poor way. Like I love the character of Obi-Wan, and I loved Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. And then they did the Obi-Wan show, and then they decided to have him co-star along with a girl playing little Leia Organa. Now, I don't actually have a problem with them wanting to do a show about little Leia, but there is no reason for her to be interacting with Obi-Wan Kenobi. The fact that they put those two characters together breaks the canon. Because the people working at Marvel and Star Wars, they don't care about the canon. They don't respect the canon. In fact, the producers hiring people, they don't want people who know and love the canon. And that blows my mind, because the reason these properties were worth so much money when Disney bought them was because of the canon. That is why the property had value, because that canon is what created the universe that all of the fans would know and love and want to be part of and want to engage with. So when you don't stick to the lore and you don't follow the established rules, and you break stuff, that's when you start to lose fans. And Disney and Marvel have been doing that constantly. So with Marvel, the bigger problem has been since Endgame. I think they kind of got lucky with Endgame because that story was based on the Infinity Gauntlet, and the story, the idea to do this with a bunch of movies leading up to Endgame was set in place before Disney bought Marvel. So, like, Disney didn't make the first Marvel's Avengers movie, they just produced it. That movie was made by Marvel Studios as Marvel was being acquired by Disney. And I love the first Avengers movie. The second one is probably the Age of Ultron is probably my least favorite Marvel movie from the era before Endgame. Um, but I think what Kevin Feige, who's in charge of Marvel, was able to do was stick to the plan that was already in place before Disney bought it, and ride that out to the end. But since they got to the end um, of since they got to the end of the end game story with Thanos, they just haven't had a clear plan of what to do next. I mean, they've kind of suggest they want to do the Secret Wars thing. Maybe they want to do Kang the Conqueror, and the Kang the Conqueror thing got derailed because the actor got in some legal trouble. So they don't know what they're doing. Everything they've been putting out has just been performing worse and worse and worse. I've actually liked some of it, but a lot of it really is like they're doing this thing called the MCU. So they're using legacy characters and swapping in female characters to replace them. And it's like, you know, if you want to make the shows about these female characters, then make the show about the female character. They did that with Miss Marvel, but it didn't do well. That show didn't do well. I watched the show. I actually don't mind it. It's not too bad. I hate that they changed her powers, but the show itself's not too bad. And the girl they cast to play Miss Marvel, it was a really good actress. She was really good in the role. But like, that's one of the few times they've actually just tried to bank on the female character and sell the show that way. But everything else, it just seems like they've got to shoehorn a female character into a show that's being propped up by a male character, like they did with Hawkeye, because they wanted to make a Kate Bishop show, but they had to include the original Hawkeye in there. And that show was okay. I didn't hate it, but yeah, it wasn't great either. And it's just watching all these shows, and the knowing that they got rid of the Netflix shows, which were great, and they basically were saying that the Agents of Shield show was supposed to be integrated with the MCU, but then they just said no, it's not. So that show is completely meaningless now. It's just, there's no direction there, and that's one of the things I really can't stand. And it just seems like it's falling apart. You got a bunch of different people doing whatever they want, and the stuff isn't going together. The Doctor Strange movie was a bit of a confusing mess, even though I like what they did with Scarlet Witch. Some of the stuff around that plot just wouldn't make sense to people who weren't fans of the comic books. And it just doesn't all go together very well. And I don't have faith in what they're doing for the future of Marvel. And it makes me sad because I've been a long time fan of Marvel, collected the comics for over 20 years. I have a huge action figure of Marvel action figures, and it was something that I really love. And Star Wars, I love the universe that was created by George Lucas. Even though I have issues with the prequel movies, I still think they're better than the new trilogy movies that were made by Disney. Although I do like Rogue One, I'll give them credit for that. They got one hit, and I do love the Andor show. The Andor show is fantastic. If you like political intrigue and you're into sci-fi or Star Wars, you got to watch Andor. It's the best thing Star Wars has ever made. Best acting in Star Wars, hand down. And it's set in the time period before A New Hope, before Episode 4, the original Star Wars movie. So this is how the rebellion is getting built under the oppression of the Empire. And if you're an anti-imperialist, like I do consider myself to be anti-imperialist, then that show is really intriguing because it's showing how a resistance is actually having to be formed, and the challenges they have to overcome to get that resistance that ultimately leads to the destruction of the Death Star and the original Star Wars movies. So I highly recommend Andor. Anyway, let's see if there's any good chats in here. Some of you people don't care about the you don't really care about the Star Wars and Marvel stuff. I don't really care about the princess movies, and I don't care too much about the recent Pixar movies, but I'm not too much of a fan of the latest ones. So Pie Sailor doesn't care about Disney, so he's leaving. Well, I'm sorry. Well, I am going to talk about some other stuff too. This is about the end of the Disney section, but nobody has any like just rants they want to go off on Disney. Maybe you did while we were doing the actual thing and I didn't see it. Well, anyway, here we go. Big Basil. George Lucas really went downhill after the first 3 Star Wars movies. I guess you could say that. Well, I don't think George Lucas was ever a good director. He's a world builder. He's a producer. He's a special effects guy. He's terrible at dialogue, and he's not a good director. And I think you can look at the prequel movies as proof of that. Honestly, I think that Episode 1 is probably his best directed movie because he put his all into that movie. And of the 3 prequels, I think it's the best, most well-made movie. It has the best dialogue, the best acting, the best use of computer graphics mixed with real sets. I think the pacing is actually really good in that movie. But the problem is all the good things that were done in that movie were ruined by Jar Jar Binks. That movie also has the best lightsaber battle with the Duel of the Fates between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. And Qui-Gon's an awesome character. That's another reason I like that movie. But definitely Jar Jar just sinks that entire movie. If they just had Jar Jar stay on Naboo and he didn't travel with them when they left the planet, it probably would have been fine. But yeah, everything good about that movie is just completely undermined by the Jar Jar Binks character. So let's see. Here's somebody. I agree. This is a esoteric knowledge collector. I agree that they had an opportunity to make a great show with Ahsoka, and they totally flubbed that. I think it's frankly an embarrassing series and overall very awkward. Well, the thing about Ahsoka, I like it. It's not great. It's not a great show. It's an okay show. I think it's more of a Sabine Wren show than an Ahsoka show. Like she almost felt like a side character in her own titled show. So it was another bit of a bait and switch there. But it really was about Sabine wanting to go find Ezra and bring him back to the galaxy as we know it. It was okay. I like what they did. I like most of the choices they had for the acting. I like the characters they had on the dark side. I don't think they're making Thrawn to be the character that everybody knows and loves from the book. He's not exactly like that, but they did change him up from the Rebels cartoon. So I think we're getting a more mature Thrawn in the show, and maybe they will make him more like the books in the Heir to the Empire series. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I like Dave Filoni was in charge of Ahsoka. I like the Filoni verse. I think he does a good job. So we'll see where it goes. There's some rumors about what they think they're going to do with Star Wars coming out of Ahsoka, but I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to judge it based on what actually comes out. So episodes 4 and 5 were the best. Everything after that was a blend of cheesy and stale. Well, I know most people will say Empire Strikes Back, which is episode 5, is the best movie of the series. And it's hard for me to argue with that, although my favorite movie of the original trilogy is Return of the Jedi. I like the beginning of Empire. I love the Hoth scene is great. And I like the ending where they go to when they get to the Best in Cloud City and you get Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker. That's fantastic. The way that battle fleshes out. It's not a good lightsaber battle because it's just Darth Vader kicking Luke's butt, but it's such a meaningful scene, and the power of like, Luke, I am your father. So good. But my favorite still Return of the Jedi because of the space battles. I actually like the Ewoks. I mean, those little bastards were monsters, man. They remember when we first met the Ewoks, they were going to eat Han and Luke and Chewie. That was their plan. And if it wasn't for Luke's Jedi abilities, they probably would have been turned into shish kebabs for the Ewoks. And without the Ewoks, they wouldn't have been able to. The rebels wouldn't have been able to take out the shields, because the Ewoks were surprisingly advanced. They took out not one but two ATSTs. They had achieved limited flight, and they obviously had some mastery of basic physics, using logs to help them take out stormtroopers. So I think the Ewoks were a case of like the indigenous people showing how they can be really valuable going up against a superior force, a much more superior armed force. And I think the Ewoks are a good example of that. Oh, I love, and the land speeder chase scene on Endor is great. And also I love the Jabba the Hutt stuff at the beginning. That is, I mean, the Jabba, all the Tatooine stuff with Jabba and the Sarlacc pit, that's, you can just watch that on its own as it's, just as a morsel, like as an appetizer, and it's great. So, but I understand why people love Empire and think it's the best. So how about we sell the company and Enron and shareholders leave them with an empty bag? I think I get that. So you want to sell off all of Disney, so the shareholders get screwed. I wouldn't feel bad about that. I think Lucas made a big mistake selling to Disney. I think everybody believes that now. Well, I think the lesson people should take from what Lucas did is, when it's time for you to sell and you want to get out, sell to the people who run your company and turn your property, your franchise, into a worker IP, a worker-owned co-op, so that the creative people who know and love the material are going to be the ones in charge of it and will be in charge of it forever. Let's see. Oh, I agree with this. Big Basil. I find the CGI of the prequels awful and the acting is so wooden. They should have waited a few more years. Yes, that's why I don't like episode 3. And a lot of people will say they love episode 3. It's their favorite of the prequels. Well, what I agree with is that episode 3 is the best story of the prequels, but part of the story of episode 3 is the political intrigue that's underlying all the action that's going on. And they cut that stuff from the movie. It's in the books, and there's even deleted scenes from episode 3 that show some of the political intrigue, where you got scenes with Padme Amidala meeting with Mon Mothma, and they're talking about, what we have to do, because they want to get the emperor out of power. I mean, there's a lot of people who think he's overstayed his welcome, but all that stuff is cut, and they just focused on all the Jedi stuff, the lightsaber battles, and the acting is bad. It's pretty bad, but there is some very iconic bad acting in there, like the Palpatine stuff is pretty good. And then I will say this: the saving grace of that movie is Obi-Wan, is Ewan McGregor. Like, he has some cheesy lines, but he delivers them and sells them so well. And like, even though I hate that lightsaber battle at the very end, just his dialogue, while it's cheesy, he just delivers it so well. And like, I love it. So he's like, I've got the high ground. It's stupid, but like, but it's work. But it just works, and it's so iconic. And like, where people call him the master of the high ground, which isn't true. He was always a master of the low ground, because like, you remember when he took out Darth Maul, he was hanging by his fingertips, and he had to force jump his way out of there and surprise Maul. And also with Grievous, he was down and out for the count, but he managed to get the gun and shoot him in the heart. But anyway, the high ground moment is so bad it's good, and I do like it because of Ewan McGregor. But I do think the CGI is pretty bad. It was overused. They did too much green screen work. So Palpatine was one evil mofo. Yeah, he was, and I think that makes him a really good villain. And I like the way they fleshed him out in the Clone Wars series. You got to see more of the underlying politics that goes behind that, and also I think even what they did with some of the clone stuff in the books in the extended universe was good, but I can't stand what they did with Palpatine in the trilogy. It was just a big mess. Like I've seen the rise of Palpatine once, and I'm never going to watch that movie ever again. It's awful. Although I will say, the horses riding on the Death Star, that wasn't as stupid as I was expecting it to be. It actually made a little bit more sense the way they presented in the movie, and I thought the scene it looked kind of cool. And I will say about The Last Jedi, it looks great, but it's not a Star Wars movie. It disrespects everything that came before it, besides The Force Awakens. And because because episodes 8 and 9 are so bad, I can't enjoy episode 7, which I generally liked, even with all its flaws. I think it did its job in getting people excited about Star Wars again. Yet they pissed away all the goodwill that was created by that movie with the other 2 movies. It was clear they didn't have a plan. So the older movies are better, and they are classics. Yeah, they are. Even the prequels are classics now. Like I do like episode 2, the Attack of the Clones, for some of the cheesiness. I mean, the one part I hate is the part where they're in the factory and they're doing that scene where Padme and Anakin are having to crawl through the conveyor belt of all the machinery. I hate that part, but generally I like the rest of it. I like when they show the cloning facility. I like the big battle at the very end, and I like seeing Yoda actually use his lightsaber for the first time of going up against Count Dooku. That was pretty good. Let's see. Knowledge will buy a book. Palpatine was evil. Okay, I think that's enough Star Wars and Disney stuff. Let's go on. Wow, it's been almost 2 hours. Well, Kit and I did do an hour just on Disney. So I've got other stuff to talk about, and I can run through some of these quickly. So I don't think I'll get to every single topic, but I do want to get to at least 2 more. So give me a second. I'm going to cue this stuff up. So this is what I do for pasta behind the scenes every day. And it helps the show flow a lot better because he doesn't have to just stop and do all these things. But okay, let's go ahead and talk about Sweet Baby Ink. I've got an article and a tweet I want to share. So let me get this up here. All right. All right, here we go. All right, welcome to Pasta with Cheese on Pasta to Go. I'm your host, Cheeseslice, and right now I want to talk about what's going on with Sweet Baby Inc. So, if you've never heard of Sweet Baby Inc., well, what this is it's a diversity, equity, and inclusion company, and they are consultants who work with video game studios primarily, and they consult with these companies to tell them what they should and should not include in their games, because with the fear of being canceled. And so you could say this is a woke company advising other companies on how to stay in line with wokeness so that the woke crowd won't come after them, and they can actually make their products so that they are more inclusive of the whole of the audience. They want to reach a bigger audience. Now, I don't really like using the word woke, but in our contemporary vernacular right now, wokeness has a meaning that does describe a phenomenon exists. It generally is speaking about when diversity, equity, inclusion is the focus of a thing, like a movie or a show or a video game. The diversity is what we are focusing on, but we're not focusing on the meat and potatoes of whatever the thing is that we're talking about. So I think, to me, that's what I think wokeness is. I wish they had a different term, because I do understand the original meaning of the word term. Like, it's about people waking up to understanding how the system really operates, and how specifically more so Black people, but just in generally, like anybody in the working class, how the system is really stacked against you, and somebody who's woke is aware to how things really work in the real world, and that they need to be they need to team up with the other people who understand this too, so we can push back and actually have a meaningful life in America that's fair, and doesn't just hand everything over to the people at the top. So I get the original meaning of the word woke, but there is a contemporary meaning now that it just means something a little bit different. And it's a much more of a negative term now. So I am going to use that term, even though I don't really like it, just for lack of having a better term. So I apologize to those of you who object to me using the term, but I think we understand what it means in the vernacular. So having said that, this Sweet Baby Inc. company is working with video game companies and helping them produce their games so that they are going to be in line with a lot of these diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Now, personally, I don't think those three things are bad on their own, but these DEI companies, what these DEI push, I think is somewhat problematic. It comes off to me as being authoritarianism. And like, you can't legislate or force people to stop being bigots. And the only way they stop is by you have to like reach them one at a time. You have to include them in stuff where they get to know people who are the kind of people they supposedly hate, and they get to realize, oh my, I was wrong about this whole thing the whole time, and they change their minds. And unfortunately, I don't know if there's a way you can scale that. It's a process that only works by reaching out to people on an individual level. But what we can do is, if we get thousands of people reaching out to people like that 1,000 times over, and you get to turn one person and you get that person to turn another person or their entire family, I mean, then that can have a large impact on the society overall. But with these DEI initiative type things, they're preaching to people. And not only are they preaching to people, they're demanding that you conform. And if you don't conform, then they reach out and cancel people. And then they'll even censor people. And that's where I object to this kind of stuff. Now, this seems to be one of those companies that does that. So I do have a video here that was found. This is by the founder of Sweet Baby Inc. And this is how she presents the company to potential clients, and how she encourages the people she's speaking to get potential clients to hire more companies like Sweet Baby Inc. So let's go ahead and watch this. All right, we'll bring it up. Here we go. Let me take that banner down just so we can have a clean shot here. There we go. All right. So let's watch this. This is the founder of Sweet Baby Inc.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
So she's advising the people she's talking to threaten their higher ups, the decision makers, into conforming with these initiatives.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want. If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them. I think it
is repeating. Okay, but at the very end, there's also this slide here, and she doesn't really talk about it in this video clip. But it says, bring in marginalized collaborators at the beginning and ask them how to make it great rather than less bad. So, in theory, these things aren't bad. But what it seems to me like they've been doing with a lot of these programs is they have been, oh wait, this comment here, the DEI nonsense is a WF creation. Yes, it is. It is a plan. I think it's a form of mind control. But so in theory, like diversity, inclusion, and or equity and inclusion, they're all good things. But you're not supposed to do this stuff at the expense of other people. You're supposed to add more seats to the table, not kick people out of the table who are already sitting there. And in Hollywood, this is what they're doing like crazy. And they're trying to do it in the video game industry as well. So that's it. This is what Sweet Baby Inc. is. It's in the literary world, this would be called they would be called sensitivity readers, and those are the people who go through and look at literary works and look for problematic things and suggest changes that should be made to written works of fiction or stuff like that. And they're also the people who want to put warning labels on old movies and say, warning, there's like content in here that might be sensitive to modern audiences or whatever. Frankly, I think it's kind of lame, but what they do, and it definitely strikes me as authoritarianism. So, but gamers have caught on to this, and this is where the story is. So gamers have realized that this company has been in a consultant with a bunch of the AAA titles that have come out recently. And it just so happens a lot of these recent AAA titles were flops. And not because people knew about Sweet Baby Inc., but because they're suggesting that Sweet Baby Inc.'s influence was felt sharply on a lot of these projects. And I want to share this. I want to share this slide here. So this is a tweet from I think it's just kind of a random person, but they wanted to make a point about this game series. It's called Arkham Knights. It's about Batman. So the first game was Arkham Asylum, regardless, like one of the best Batman games ever made. It only had 2 writers. Arkham City, the sequel, another fantastic Batman game, 3 writers. Batman Origin had 5 writers. Batman Arkham Knight had 7. I actually like all 4 of those games. They're very good. Same company making Batman games. Then this is a spinoff, Gotham Knights, 14 writers, 2 of which were from the Sweet Baby Inc. staff. And this game bombed. It just completely fell flat. And it just was a commercial flop. And then more recently, the Suicide Squad game has 26 writers, half of which were from the Sweet Baby Inc. staff. And this game just came out like a couple months ago, and it already has less than 1,000 concurrent players at the same time. It's supposed to be a live service multiplayer game, and almost nobody's playing it. It is a massive, massive AAA failure. So these are just 2 of the games that this company has worked on. And a lot of the gamers out there think that Sweet Baby Inc. has a lot to do with this. So that's not all. There are they have other games, and I'm actually going to stick up for Sweet Baby Inc. here a little bit. I don't think you can blame these commercial failures just on them, but I do think they are. I do think that they are a contributing factor to why the stories weren't so hot and why they were turning off gamers from a narrative standpoint. But there's also this thing called Sweet Baby Inc. Detective. It's a group. It's a curated list on Steam that just basically shares what games Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on. Now, you can I got it here. We can look and see what these games are. So this curated list is just basically going through all the games that they can confirm with evidence from links of the company that say the Sweet Baby Inc. definitely worked on these. Hold on a second. I'm going to adjust my mic, and I don't want to break your ears. Okay. Sorry about that. So you can see here, there's not a whole lot of AAA stuff. There's a lot of indie games that they've worked on. not all these games are flops. And there are some reports that they worked on some other games too, like Mortal Kombat 1 and Spider-Man 2. And Spider-Man 2 was a commercial success. But their highest profile games have been Suicide Squad and this Gotham Knights game. Now, they also worked on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, that game's moderately successful. It's not exactly, it's Assassin's Creed game, so it did fairly well, but it wasn't a huge success. But then when I look at a lot of the other games on this list, well, a lot of these are considered to be woke games. And I don't see a problem with if you're making a woke game, hiring a woke company to make sure your product is going to be in line with woke values. So, like this NeoCab is totally a woke game. It's not hiding the fact that that's what it wants to be. And I know this Sable game here is also somewhat woke, but it's actually quite a good game. And the thing is, like this wokeness culture, well, there is an audience for the kind of content they want to produce. And I don't think that they should go away, but they shouldn't have to be included in everything that is produced. Like the audience that like this kind of stuff should be able to get this kind of stuff, but you shouldn't be shoehorning this stuff into other properties. So it's hard for me to believe that Sweet Baby Inc. is the sole reason why there's been a bunch of flops. Now, the other games that have not done so well are this Shadow Gambit game. It was supposed to be pushed it was expected to have a bigger sales than it did. And this Dungeons and Dragons games Dark Alliance, it did not do super well. This Kingdom 80s games, very small indie game that's a spinoff of the Kingdom series, which is very loved. And I haven't heard anything negative about this game. And if we look at it, it had mostly positive reviews, but this mixed stuff I think has come recently because of the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff. But before people found out about it, people generally liked this game. So I do think some gamers are overreacting to Sweet Baby Inc.'s role. It's clear to me they shouldn't be involved in AAA titles, which are the big titles from the studios. They shouldn't be involved in superhero stuff. But if you're going to be doing projects like this NeoCab thing or this Zio thing, I don't know if that's how you say it. I mean, it's probably okay. I mean, those are the kind of companies that would be welcoming of a DEI initiative group coming in and helping consult with them. So long story short here, I think the problem is you've got a woke company working in a gamer space that's not filled with a bunch of gamers who don't consider themselves to be woke or want to be exposed to woke stuff. And that's a disconnect between the people producing the games and their customer base. So I think the other big problem with these two games, these two high profile games, the Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, is they just weren't very well designed games. The combat that the company was known for just seemed lacking compared to the Batman games, and there were a lot of live service elements in these games that didn't exist before in the old games, and gamers don't like that stuff. So I think you can blame the executives on some of these failures as much as you can blame on Sweet Baby Inc. But the final thing I want to say about this issue is the other reason you might be hearing about it is because the people who defend Sweet Baby Inc. are very upset about this list. They consider this to be a hit list. That, hey, you're outing us. You're putting a target on us for people. But all this list is doing is just informing people of the games that this company has worked on. It's very similar to like if someone wanted to make a list of movies that a certain actor has acted in, which is a thing that every actor has in their filmography up on IMDb or even Wikipedia. So it's the same thing as that. But yet these Sweet Baby Inc. people, they're upset that they're getting outed for this and being blamed for these failures. And honestly, not all these games were failures. And some of these games are the kind of games that should be working with a company like Sweet Baby Inc. So I think gamers are a bit overreacting to this and following this list. That's my 2 cents on it. And I do think it's something worth keeping an eye on. I don't think DEI initiatives are all bad, but I do think they are bad when they're being shoehorned into your media that you want to consume, and it's not something that you want. So, and that'll do it for this segment. Thanks for watching. Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you didn't know much about that. Oh, Assassin's Creed is made woke. Really? It's mad woke. Well, I wasn't. Not before. I think it wasn't up through Assassin's Creed 4. It wasn't. Well, maybe Assassin's Creed 4 was a little woke. But I don't think some of the couple games after that were very woke either. But it's been hard for me to keep up with the Assassin's Creed franchise since the Desmond story ended. I was really invested with that part where it was you had the part in the future explaining why they were getting into the machine and being sent back into these memories to revisit the past for looking for artifacts to solve a mystery that was centuries old. I really liked that, but once they got past that story, I kind of lost interest in the franchise. So while they do look good, some of these games look good. I just lack interest, and I hear they've gotten very repetitive. It's just very formulaic in what the Assassin's Creed games do. It's just same game, different setting, beautiful cities, recreations of ancient cities, and that's kind of cool, but it's just not enough to make me want to actually play it. All right. So that's Sweet Baby Inc. Okay, the next story I want to talk to, I think I'm going to wrap it up here soon. We're going to skip the Nintendo and Yuzu stuff. I would have liked to react to Caitlin Johnson article with Kit. Let's do the Tik Tok Ban thing. I think this is actually quite important. So give me a moment as I change up the stuff that's queued for this topic. All right. All right. So this is just for the editing after this live stream. Okay, here we go. Make sure I got this video shared and we're going to be good. Sorry about the dead air there, folks, but I don't know how some of these guys do the producing and the talking at the same time. It's definitely a skill. All right, here we go. Hi, welcome to Pasta to Go. This is Cheeseslice with our the little segment we like to call Pasta with Cheese, because Pasta is out on assignment right now, and I'm doing a bit of a weekend show, trying to do some lighter topics that wouldn't normally be covered on a normal Pasta to Go show. But this is a topic that might actually make it onto the main show. So the House panel has unanimously passed a bill that could lead to a ban of TikTok. And I think this is actually a very important thing, because this is talking about more censorship. Now, the big problem that the government seems to have with TikTok is that it's owned by a Chinese-based company, even though it's run by its owner is from Singapore. And what's frustrating about this to me is that the government clearly wants to censor this company because it's a place where people can go and share ideas. Their claims are that the Chinese government is spying on people, that people are just willfully giving their information over to China. But I think the real problem here is that the government doesn't have the control over this company the same way they have control over Facebook or Google, and even even Twitter, X to a much lesser extent. So I've got a video here from Glenn Greenwald, and he does a fantastic job of breaking it down. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but we will watch some parts of it. But I think Glenn is he's a very good journalist, and his analysis on here is totally on point. So let's go ahead and watch some of this.
Which the Trump candidacy, the Trump presidency, the Trump effort now to return to the Oval Office has scrambled almost completely, and in every sense, what had been longstanding and quite predictable ideological categories. One of the examples that illustrates the way in which this is being scrambled is the 2-year attempt by the Biden White House. It has emanated from the executive branch, from the CIA, the FBI, the Pentagon, and then into the Biden White House, an attempt to urge that the social media platform TikTok be banned in the United States, despite the fact, or really because of the fact, that it is so wildly popular among young American citizens.
That's right. And that's kind of what I was getting on board with. So they're not able to control the message on TikTok, and they want to get their hands in it. So they want to force a sale of TikTok to more of an American-based company so they can really control it. So they just want to ban it. If they can't control it, they want to ban it. And I see that as being problematic, because the government is not supposed to interfere with a bookstore. They're not supposed to threaten a bookstore about them selling a book. And you could look at TikTok as the bookstore, and the videos that are put up are published by the people who make those videos. And the bookstores should be allowed to sell whatever it wants. But the government wants to step in there and tell TikTok what videos are okay and what are not okay. And I know we see this on YouTube, we see this on Facebook, and to a limited extent, we still see it on Twitter, because the people that are working there are very much in line with what the government wants in terms of controlling the narrative. And these people are just authoritarians, and it's a form of brainwashing, and you could even call it mind control. But it's not necessarily working. People are wise to it and are rejecting it.
The millions of American citizens create their social bonds, find expression politically and socially, obtain their news and their information, form their political ideas on that app. It's the place that they go to find community. They spend hours and hours and hours on it every day. It's almost certainly, among young people at least, the most influential social media platform in the country.
That's true.
And there's an attempt, obviously, when there's a social media platform that powerful, that influential, where so many young people are, obviously power centers want to reach them. They don't want to allow this platform to go uncontrolled and unmonitored.
Right. So that's basically what I just
ungoverned. That's too dangerous. You can't allow young Americans to be consuming information without the U.S. government influencing and shaping and dictating what it is that they consume.
So he's saying the same thing I just said. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, because he gets into what actually happened.
This panel unanimously approves a bill that could ban TikTok.
All right, so I want to respond to this comment here from Mr. Boston. It's still not banned. You're right, it's not banned. And Glenn's going to explain this in a second. But what's happened is that they had a House panel in a closed meeting with a bunch of CIA people, and then everybody on that panel agreed to move forward on a bill that would lead to a TikTok ban if that bill gets passed. And that's why people should be concerned, because this bill is now in play. And if you're against having this thing be banned, then now's the time to act. You can call your congressman. You can form your movement to try to save TikTok. Now, I have no love for TikTok, but I don't want to see this platform banned. I mean, it's not something I use. I don't have a TikTok account. And I honestly think the majority of the content on there makes people dumber, but there is some good stuff on there. I mean, it's probably like 20-30% of the stuff on there is worth your time. But nonetheless, I'm not here to dictate what other people can watch or should be watching and spending their spare time on. If they want to watch hours of TikTok videos, let them. And I think the idea of the government trying to ban this company is a terrible thing. It's an authoritarian move, and I'm very much against it.
It's not a Republican initiative. It's not a Democratic initiative. It is now fully bipartisan. The effort to take an app that tens of millions of Americans are using, wrestle control away from its current owners, and in the highly likely event that it can't be done within the time period allotted, require that Apple and Google and other platforms kick them out of the store and do not allow further updates or further downloads. Exactly what was done to destroy Parler, the free speech platform in 2021 that became the most popular and most downloaded app in all of the United States, only for Democrats to pressure Apple and Google to remove it from its store, which they did, and then to pressure Amazon Web Services to stop hosting Parler, and it destroyed Parler overnight. That's the same playbook being used here. Quote, New Jersey Congressman Frank Pallone, its ranking Democrat, this committee's ranking Democrat, compared the bill to prior efforts to regulate the U.S. airwaves, citing testimony from national security officials from a closed-door hearing Thursday. Quote, I take the concerns raised by the intelligence community this morning very seriously. Now, let me just emphasize where these warnings are coming from. These are concerns raised by the intelligence community. The intelligence community means the CIA, the FBI.
This should be a big red flag for people. I mean, it's a closed-door session with the intelligence community. The intelligence community, the FBI and the CIA, are the ones who were the Twitter files exposed, were the ones sending messages to Facebook, or at least to Twitter, and we can assume they were doing the same thing with Facebook and YouTube, to get them to tell them who they should be censoring and pulling off the internet, and censoring their videos and censoring their speech. So they're doing this closed door meeting with the House, and they've convinced this panel at the House unanimously that they need to take action on this bill, which would lead to banning TikTok. Well, it's not exactly a ban on TikTok. It's a conditional ban. It's like either you do X or Y is going to happen, and Y is the banning of TikTok.
Homeland Security, and then here too, the way in which this bill emerged is a result of
oh no, why is this?
Testimony from national security officials from a closed-door hearing on Thursday. Now, if I know anything about right-wing politics in the United States in the era of Trump, it is that almost everybody on the right, practically by definition, has expressed a serious concern about the way in which the national security state is trying to control the content and the flow of information over the internet. That's what the Twitter files were about. That's what all of the rage and anger was about when it came to censoring dissent on COVID and on the war in Ukraine in the 2020 election. That was what the court rulings were about that we reported on, first at a district court level and then an appellate court level, that found that the attempts by the Biden executive branch and various agencies within it, including the CIA and the FBI and the CDC, have been coercing and threatening big tech to remove content that they dislike, that they regard as false or dangerous.
That's right. So I really think that this is what this whole process is about. They want to be able to do the same thing that they've been doing with the other social media companies with TikTok. And because of its ownership being located outside of the United States, they're unable to do so. And like Rumble is also I believe Rumble is actually a Canadian company. Now, I think the one reason, though, that they're sticking to the First Amendment is because they realize that's their selling point, and that's what is helping them grow that platform, is that they're advocating themselves as a free speech platform. So Rumble is not cooperating with governments to do the censorship in the way that they want to, at least not openly, and not as it's not quite the same. So there have been some censorship on Rumble, but it's not to the extent that it is on YouTube or even Facebook and Twitter.
A program that the 4 judges in the federal system that have reviewed it have said is as profound an attack on the First Amendment guarantee of free speech as any in decades. How is it that anyone who has been thinking that, and anyone who has been saying that over the past 5 years or 7 years can now turn around and applaud when the CIA and the FBI in closed-door meetings convinces Congress to seize control of one of the most popular social media apps, and if they can't, to ban it from existing in the United States, to ban American citizens who want to use it from being able to use it. It's such an inherently extreme and extremist measure, and they're counting on the fact that a lot of people fear China the way liberals fear Russia, and all they have to do is invoke the scary specter of China for everyone to stand up and applaud the government and Joe Biden and the bipartisan Congress for seizing control of this app. This is what's really happening here. Now, just to continue and conclude the CNN article, quote, they have asked Congress, meaning the intelligence community has asked Congress, to give them more authority to act in these narrowly defined situations, and I believe this bill will do that. Now, the last time there was a bill that was presented, when there was this kind of hysteria created over TikTok, when the CEO of TikTok testified back in early 2023, the bill that was presented that they told people was designed to allow Joe Biden and the government to ban TikTok if they wanted, in fact, vested far more powers in the government than just that. It allowed them to basically ban any social media app that has foreign ownership that they decree to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Now, here is, I just want to, in light of that, highlight what he's saying here. He's saying they, namely the intelligence community, they have asked Congress to give them more authority to act in these narrowly defined situations, meaning when they perceive that a social media app is being threatening to their interest by allowing certain speech to flow, the CIA and the FBI and Homeland Security are demanding from Congress in closed-door hearings the power to stop that and control that. How can anybody be satisfied with that?
And right now, that's supposed to be illegal. They're not supposed to be able to go in and censor your speech. This would be a direct affront to the First Amendment. There would be the government authorizing these intelligence agencies to go in and censor your speech, which they're already kind of doing, but they do have to do it secretly in the shadows and through their proxies, which are these private companies that are in control of a public space. And I just think it's completely terrible that we have private discourse or public discourse being managed by private companies. All right, I want to fast forward in here because he talks about Donald Trump's response to this. Now, there's also Joe Biden here. He was basically asked, what does he think about this TikTok ban? And he says, if it hits my desk, I'll sign it. But Trump actually had a thing to say here. And I think this was actually an interesting point that he made, and Rand Paul reinforced it.
On his Truth Social media platform, Donald Trump also addressed this bill, and he had a much different response than Joe Biden. Donald Trump said the following: if you get rid of TikTok, Facebook, and Zuckerschmuck, it will double their business. I don't want Facebook, who cheated in the last election, doing better. They are a true enemy of the people. And then Rand Paul put that into his own language, and he said the following. This is Senator Rand Paul, the Republican from Kentucky. Quote, if Congress bans TikTok, they will be acting just like the Chinese communists who have also banned TikTok. Why not just defend the First Amendment? So ordinarily, right-wing media loves to convince its audience that Joe Biden is weak on national security, he's weak on Russia, he's weak on Israel, he's weak on China, and yet here you have Joe Biden with a very aggressive foreign policy of fueling a war against Russia, of paying for and supporting Israel's war in Gaza, of bombing Yemen continuously without congressional approval, of bombing sites that he claims are backed by Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria. He has militarily encircled China by putting military bases all around them in almost every direction. And now here is Joe Biden saying that he supports a ban of TikTok on the grounds that it's controlled by the Chinese, while Donald Trump saying the only thing this will do is drive more and more people into Facebook. And if you're a conservative, why would you want to do that given how much you know about the government's ability to control the flow of information on Facebook and their ability to censor Facebook.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely right. Glenn's analysis there is spot on. And I think Trump is right too. So you definitely, if you if you knock out TikTok, it's going to force that traffic onto the existing platforms, which are already being censored, and they're being censored in favor of one party over the other. It's pretty clear that a lot of these tech companies and most of Hollywood, which we were talking about earlier with Disney, they are aligned with the Democratic Party. I mean, a lot of our institutions are aligned with the Democratic Party, and it's Americans are allowed to choose like what party they want to be affiliated with, but there's a lot of the Democratic Party and the people who are loyalists to that party, they're voters, they're diehard voters. They really are. They have turned into authoritarians. They want to just control everything, and this is why Pasta thinks that like Joe Biden's fascist, because and you'll hear from Jimmy Dore saying that the Democrats are fascist. Fascism's already here. In some ways, they're absolutely right, because this is corporate control of the state, or the corporate working with the state. But we're in a worse situation where the corporations are actually controlling the state. And this TikTok ban, if it ever happens, will be another way that they can help solidify that form of control. So I think what you need to do, if you care about freedom of speech, you care about America, the America that we used to live in, and you don't want things to change, you need to stand up and fight this, even if you don't like TikTok. So get out there and form movements to do what you need to do. Maybe we get a call-in campaign to Congress or whatever it takes. But we need to have, the more platforms we have that people can gather on to share their ideas, the better. And like we can't let TikTok fall. It just can't happen, because I don't want to see this country continue to fall all from grace more than it already has. And when we take away people's ability to speak, it's just, I mean, it's over. That's the one rule we have. That the First Amendment is the one law we have that really separates America from the rest of the world. Like it is the most problematic thing for the ruling class in the world is the First Amendment of the United States. And we've got to protect it. And that starts with protecting Julian Assange, and it continues with protecting TikTok's right to exist. We've got to stand up for that. So if you like this segment, this is Pasta with Cheese on Pasta to Go show. Pasta's away. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm just trying to fill in for the weekend. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. All right, one more segment. I'm going to react to a Do Dissonant video about Caitlin Johnston's article. They did a really good job, and I was yelling at my screen when they were talking about it. Not because I disagreed with Do Dissonance. I actually agreed with them, but I'm yelling at our government for the things that Caitlin Johnston is talking about. So I will try to behave myself while I play the video, but I do want to interject my thoughts. And here we go. I don't know if we'll make this probably won't be its own clip. This will probably just be for you on the live show. Oh yeah, Miguel, thank you for that. Smash that like up button. Yes, definitely do that. Oh, also we have some super chats. Thank you very much, guys. I'm gonna get to those right. Let's go ahead and do those right now. Share the stream. I've got a button for that, and we'll talk about those. Here we go. We need people-owned social media, and we actually have it, but we need to use it and host it. We do have that. I don't know what a people-owned social media is. If we do have it, you're right. We do need to use it, but I don't know what that is. I know there was Panquake that was coming out, but I don't know what happened to that project. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't people-owned, but it was blockchain-based, so you wouldn't be able to ban people the way that the other platforms are doing. But I agree. We need more publicly owned services. Well, the town square should be a public space. All right. So super chats. Super chats. We got Steve Wolfbrand. Sell Disney, buy Tesla, and thank me later. Well, here's the problem with selling Disney. You should have sold it months and months and months ago because it's really low. It's gone on a slight uptick recently, but it's still pretty low from where it once was. So if you bought a long time ago, you might want to hold on to it for a little bit longer. But thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that. And then TD tipped on Rockfin $50. Wow, thank you so much, TD. Cheeseslice, Kit, and Pasta, with appreciation for the real manner in which you share knowledge of it all, intelligence, humble with lots of heart, always helping others. Well, thank you very much, TD. I really appreciate your the super chat. I appreciate the compliments. I want to feel like I'm making a difference instead of just sitting and listening to everything fall apart. I want to try and contribute in some ways that I can. And I know the Disney story was a little bit lighter hearted, but I still think it kind of ties in with some of the politics at large because it is such a big, powerful corporation and they do have a lot of influence over our culture. And the culture is what pushes a lot of the politics and how people decide to vote. So what happens on the Disney board, I think, does ultimately matter to us in the long run because it's supposed to be like Americana, the stuff that everybody consumes. It's safe for people, or at least that was the way it used to be. So we'll see how things work out in the future. All right. Oh, Mastodon. Mastodon is publicly owned. Okay. I didn't know that. So is Mastodon open source? I'm not sure. And money is not important to us. The collective decides we don't ever. Is that supposed to be we don't matter or we don't ever care about money? I'm not sure what you mean there. But yeah, I don't like having to care about money. And I think most people on the left don't like having to care about money. But we live in a capitalist society and, we got to eat. So you have to care about money. So Mastodon, yes, it is open source. Okay. I was not aware of that, but apparently it's tough to use. So I know a lot of people wanted to leave Twitter when Elon Musk bought it, and they tried to go to Mastodon, but it really wasn't very successful. So I do use Discord a lot. I like Discord. It's not exactly a publicly owned, but it's relatively censorship free. They do let you get away with a lot of stuff, although I do know they have shut down certain discords from political activists, and that's unfortunate that has happened. But it's a decent place where you can congregate with people and you can do voice chats and share. I love sharing memes on there. I'm a meme guy, so Discord is a good place for doing all that. All right. So this last thing I want to do is share. Do Dissonance did a video. I don't want to react to it. We're not going to make this a separate video, just those first three things. So let's go ahead and watch this. All right. So this is Russ and Keaton talking about Caitlin Johnston.
Wrote, I think, a very good article because it's Super Tuesday now. And so it is general election season for all intents and purposes after tonight.
Hold on. Let me reload this. It seems to be frozen.
This is by Caitlin Johnston. Wrote, I think, a very good article because it's Super Tuesday now. And so it is general election season for all intents and purposes.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to speed you up a little bit.
And
just I want to get through this a little bit faster.
There was a lot of arguing about who to vote for, whether to vote at all. Are you going to protest vote? Are you going to, not vote? Are you going to do a write-in? 2020 was the same thing. And obviously, say no to Genocide Joe. No doubt about that. There's no question about that in my mind, that is the right thing to do. But I do think this was a really great little piece that we'll read here. Nobody with real power cares if you refuse to vote for Biden. And this is an important red pill to take in. There's been a lot of talk in pro-Palestine circles about withholding votes for Biden in protest of his genocide in Gaza, which is, of course, fine. But the discourse around doing so often misses an important point. A lot of U.S. voters erroneously think they'd be punishing the Democrats for Gaza by costing them the election, mistakenly assuming Democrats care about winning. They don't. Losing an election costs Democratic Party leaders nothing. All the career politicians and political operatives at the top keep their careers either way. From their point of view, this is just a cushy job with sweet benefits, and they keep those win or lose. And obviously, Biden himself doesn't care. He'll have a comfortable retirement regardless of the outcome in November. And on some level, he's surely aware that it's nuts for a dementia patient to be in the White House anyway. If the Democrats cared about getting your vote, they'd be trying hard to earn it. They're not trying because they don't care. The unelected empire managers who actually run the U.S. power structure also don't care who wins the election. They know they'll still get their murder and militarism and capitalism and imperialism, no matter who gets sworn in next year, whether it's Biden or Trump or Harris or someone else. No one with any real power cares about your vote. And that's the real issue. That's the real point that keeps getting missed here. The problem is not that the wrong people keep getting elected. It's that the elections don't matter and voters don't have a say. Yes, it's that humanity is dominated by a murderous globe-spanning power structure loosely centralized around Washington, whose actual movements and behavior have effectively zero responsiveness to the will of the electorate. Yeah, absolutely. You're never going to be able to vote your way out of this mess, and you're never going to be able to not vote your way out of this mess because the power of your vote has been undermined to a value of 0. Very good formulation there.
That's a fantastic point that I don't think that I'm glad she pointed out to everybody in this article, because even I didn't realize that. Like, I still thought your vote kind of mattered to some extent, but she's right. Your vote doesn't matter. Whether you vote or not doesn't matter. Like, it's just, some people say, well, if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain, which I don't agree with at all, because voting is only one part of participating in the political process. But our elections, for the most part, are a farce. They're going to do whatever they want, regardless of what we say. The only way the ruling class decides to do something is from public pressure, because it's really bad press. They don't like bad press. And if you can give them bad press on something, then you can sort of force the politicians to do what the public wants. But it doesn't matter how you vote, because the people in charge have selected their candidates. These are, like, all the candidates, Republicans or Democrats, these are just managers to the ruling class to do the bidding of the ruling class. So they don't care if you vote for the Republican or the Democrat, because either way, that candidate is going to do what they want. The ruling class has just narrowed down their selection to 2, and they're going to let you make the final decision on which one of these 2 people they want. So that's what our elections are at this point, and that's almost from top to bottom. Occasionally, you can get some more fair elections on a local level, where maybe the ruling class isn't paying as close attention. But wherever they want to put their finger on the scale, that's what they're going to do. But I like this point. Your vote doesn't matter. The impact of your vote is literally 0.
That doesn't mean there's no way out of this mess. It just means there's no way to get out of this mess using the fake plastic diversion toy they handed you to shut you up and trick you into thinking you have a say. There are still plenty of other tools in the toolbox for forcing an evil power structure to stop doing evil things, but they require a whole lot of hands to bring about, and right now we don't have them. Too many people have been successfully propagandized into believing the status quo works and their government is basically good, or successfully manipulated into giving up on politics altogether and throwing their attention into other things. So I love this article, but I do want to plant a little flag at that paragraph, because
I like the article too, and I think it'd be really, really valuable if this article could reach more people, because I think more people need to have this better understanding of what our political system really is.
Part of why I still think it's important to boycott Joe Biden is exactly for the reason she's saying there. It's true what she's saying. No one in power cares whether you vote for Joe Biden or don't vote for Joe Biden. But the people who are still asleep might care. The liberals, who you need to either snap out of it or get the fuck out of the way, they care.
This is a very, very good point by Keaton, and I'm glad he's going to articulate this. So I'll let him keep talking.
very much whether you vote for Joe Biden. And so in boycotting the Joe Biden ticket, you send a clear message to them. You can't have your fake plastic diversion toy called a Democratic White House without us. And we're not giving it to you because what's happening is repugnant and obscene. So that to me is the efficacy of withholding your vote for Joe Biden. She's correct about what she says. Yeah. You think Jake Sullivan gives a fuck if he gets a second term or if Trump's guy gets a second term? No, they don't care. But the people who need to be snapped out of their propaganda, they care.
Yeah. When they are out of power, they just go on to corporate boards. They go into consultancies. They get gigs for Amazon. They just go to Silicon Valley.
Right. This is the revolving
that's
door.
it. They're fine either way. They make more money that way. Yes. You do some resume building. You build up your millions over there. Then you go back into government next time your people are in charge. Yeah, no. And anyway, the cookie crumbles. Their bread is buttered. Schellenberger's article where he showed you had all these intelligence people who thought they were going to go work for Hillary, and when she didn't win, they all wound up forming and working for NGOs that became the censorship regime that, under the guise of being independent, are actually working for the government.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So they'll end up somewhere. They'll end up
somewhere. They'll be fine. They will be fine.
That's true.
We'll read a little bit more of this because it's a short piece, so we'll read the whole thing. Before the people can begin using the power of their numbers to force real change, they're going to have to be awakened to the reality that everything they've been told about their government, their society, and their world is a lie. They've got to come to the understanding that the mainstream news media are nothing but propaganda, and they live under the most murderous and tyrannical regime on this planet. They've got to realize that this power structure does not ultimately serve their interests or the interests of their fellow human beings around the world. Only when enough eyes open to this reality can revolutionary change via direct action become possible. The good news is it's entirely possible to help get those eyes open. Everything you do to help share the truth with your fellow citizens and spread awareness of what's really going on pushes this possibility towards reality. The more people open their eyes, the more people there are.
Yeah, that's right. And that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's like we got to spread this message. We got to make reach out to more people. And I mean, it is happening. It's slow, but there's not enough of us. There's not enough people who are on board. There's still too many people who are buying into this two-party system.
Are to help open others. So this could snowball from impossible to probable to inevitable quite quickly. An entire globe spanning empire rests on a closed pair of eyelids. Once they snap open, the whole thing will crumble. And from there, we can begin building a healthy world together. Well said by the perennially brilliant Caitlin Johnston. But that second part there reinforces what I said. Part of how you snap those eyeballs open is by freaking them the fuck out this year and saying, we are not voting for Joe Biden this year. That's it. We are not doing it. He has crossed our red line. Fuck you. You don't have to argue about it. Don't argue about it too much. Don't get mired in these debates. We've all seen the Twitter threads that go on for miles and miles, and Facebook conversations and Reddit, this, that, the other. Just no, absolutely not. It's very simple. Why not? 30,000 people are dead, over 20,000 of whom are women and children. And so that's it. That's done. That ship has sailed. We're not doing it. You cannot cross that red line and ask for our vote. Period. That's it. Let them fret as much as they want and hope that distress you put them under opens their eyes and ushers in the kind of momentum that she says is very much needed, because it is.
Just on Caitlin Johnstone, I would say with some confidence, as far as opinion writers on the left go, she's the best we have.
Yeah, and the volume of work is just incredible. Like, she writes almost every day.
And she consistently knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing she can be that good and that prolific at the same time.
I wish more
like
people
there's
knew
never
about her.
really a Caitlin Johnston article that doesn't flow well, right? She never really the only time I ever disagreed with something that she wrote, her heart was in the right place. I think if you remember, there was one of those little mini internet meme flare-ups because they took the picture of the students at the museum on their cell phones. And, everyone talked about how horrible it was that they're sitting in front of these great works of art and they're just sitting there on their cell phones. So she wrote a very fanciful article where, somebody confronts one of these students and they confidently tell them, no, actually, I'm looking up the entire history of art. And no, they're not. and I actually responded to it. I said, I would love to believe that, but come on, really? That's not true. That's not what's happening in that picture. Other than that, literally, I've never disagreed with anything she ever wrote. So this is typical, and that's part of what makes her stand out. She's so insightful, getting right to the heart of the matter with this.
I agree with them. Like the thing about Caitlyn is she needs to be on more platforms. Her voice needs to be amplified because her articles are fantastic. And she doesn't have she has a good reach for someone who's suppressed, and people in our space knows who she is. And if you're on Twitter, you absolutely should be following her. But like, how do you get someone like her and her writing to reach the normies out there? Because a lot of the things that she has to say are going to resonate with a lot of people, whether they're on the right or the left, because she just speaks. She's speaking sense, and I don't want to say it's common sense, but she makes very good logical arguments to convince people of what a problem is and what the solution should probably be. And there's a lot of stuff that she says that would definitely appeal to even self-described conservatives or right-wingers.
Nobody else has framed it quite this way, and she's absolutely right. They don't care, but I also think that you're right. The libs do. Like in the end, is that accelerationist? I guess.
It's not. I mean, not exactly. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but not exactly. Because it's not a matter of like crashing things into the ground. It's just a matter of opening eyeballs, right? And if the only way to open eyeballs is to abandon the Democratic Party, then you have to do that. I don't consider Trump a downgrade. Like, I don't consider an accelerationist for that reason.
That's
like,
true.
It's not a downgrade.
That's true.
Like,
that's true.
It's actually materially, probably ever so slightly by accident better. I mean, Donald Trump gave a horrific quote to Fox News. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but they said, like a lot of these people who are voting uncommitted, they're not going to vote for you because you're a stronger ally of Israel than Joe Biden's. Like, what do you think about what Israel's doing in Gaza? And he says, well, they have to finish the problem. Just a completely heartless piece of shit. Like,
that's why I always
a monster on that front. So, like, I'm not telling you it's going to be better under Trump because he's a better guy. I'm saying with Trump, there is the randomness factor. There's a chance he'll have a falling out with Netanyahu over some bullshit thing and cut off funding if another one of these things flares up. Like, it's not a great chance. I'm not saying it's because of any conviction of his. With him, there's a randomness factor. With Biden, there's no randomness factor. We know where Jake Sullivan is taking the world.
Well, that's what Putin said.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I totally agree with this. The one benefit of Trump over Biden is that he's a wild card. You don't know what you're going to do. I mean, you might get him talking to North Korea, which he did. And I think that was a genuinely good thing that Trump did. Now, maybe not a lot came out of that, but at least he did it. I mean, but he also does some crazy things like killing General Soleimani. So I don't have a lot of faith in Trump that he'll do anything different on the Israel situation. But I know exactly what Joe Biden's going to do. But Trump might surprise me, just like Keaton said. He might wake up one day and just say, you know what, screw Bibi, we're gonna stop supporting them over this. But because I also know Trump said one other thing when he was talking about Ukraine. He said, I want people to stop dying. And if he's consistent, he'll say the same thing about the people in Gaza too. And Trump has seemed to be war adverse. Now, he didn't end any new wars, but he wasn't really all about starting new wars. So we'll see. Like Trump is a wild card, and like he said, he just could get pissed off at Bibi for something, and things could change. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that, on why Trump would be better, or Trump being better on Israel than Biden. That's certainly no reason to vote for Trump over Biden. You shouldn't vote for either of them because, as far as I know, they're going to treat the situation the same way.
He prefers Biden because he's more predictable.
He's more predictable, exactly.
Now, is he playing head games? Maybe, but is the fact that Biden is a more reliably predictable person to have to face off against than Trump? Of course it is. Right. Of course it is. I mean, Trump. Yes, you're right. You never know. Trump could turn around on a dime and say, we're I don't understand why we're paying for everything in Israel.
Right.
Yeah,
man, I don't know why. Did I just freeze out?
Why don't they pay for it?
I think I'm freezing again,
sure,
guys.
That could definitely happen. And yes, you're right. It's not accelerationist in the sense that I think Trump's going to do a worse job I mean,
Right.
how much worse a job
How much
could you
worse can
really
you fucking do?
how much worse could you do?
That's true.
So I do agree with that. But you are talking about being a political actor who's trying to kind of force people to wake up to the fact that the system doesn't work. So in
Right.
some sense, you are trying to crash the system, but you're trying to crash it so that something better can take its place.
Sure thing.
So in
Sure
some
thing.
sense, that's an accelerationist.
But the act of
motivation.
boycotting Biden is in this case to just scare the libs, just scare
Right.
them straight. Just
Right.
saying, no, you've reached the end of the line here. You've reached the end of the line, and we're not turning back no matter what.
Right. So I think that was a really good segment that they did, and I apologize to them for speeding it up, but I wanted to get through it a little bit quicker than the 12 minutes that it normally is. Okay, we can remove that. All right, I don't have anything else to share with you guys, but I do want to share this. This is a good point from Chicken Beak. We were already in Syria. He, meaning Trump, wanted to pull back. The neocons convinced him otherwise. Also, they completely were not doing anything he said, so it would actually be mutiny. And you're right about that. Like, there were people in the government, in the White House, and the Trump administration who were disobeying Trump's direct orders. But the difference is why it's not mutiny is, well, if they were in the military, it would certainly be mutiny. But I think this is not a mutiny. It's it might be more. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is a mutiny, but I think you have to be in the military for it to be a mutiny. But yeah, Trump. I think he was definitely war adverse. I think he was sincere when he said he wanted to pull out of Syria, but I think he did not have sufficient power to actually do it, because I think the neocons have a lot of power that they were able to wield over Trump to force him to stay on course with their neocon plans. And so he always capitulated and always bent the knee to the neocons. But second term Trump might be different. He's not going to be looking at a re-election, and hopefully he won't have all those neocons in his cabinet for a second time, and maybe you'll get something different. But he's still going to have people like Jared Kushner in there. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So part of me thinks that the left should try to suck up to Trump, stroke his ego a little bit, and maybe he'll do some Medicare for all. Because Trump just wants to be liked. He's a narcissist. He wants people to like him. And so he's happy with the MAGA base liking him. But if he could embarrass Bernie Sanders and the entire progressive left by doing the things that they say they want to do. And he could stand up for it. And what does Trump care if the American people get health care? It's like, if that happens, then people will love him for it. I mean, even people who hate him now, well, at least he got his health care. So I don't know. David says it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen. But I mean, it's something maybe we should have considered. Out in left field said dereliction of duty. Yeah, I think that would be dereliction of duty more than mutiny. But I mean, you are working in the White House. So if you are refusing to do and carry out the president's orders, that is a massive problem. I mean, you're hired there to do a job, and he's supposed to be the person in charge. But the problem with Trump is he would forget what he would tell people to go and do. So he wouldn't have this stuff written down, and they just not do it, and then he'd move on and forget about it. Here, have a CARES Act. Yep. The CARES Act is anything but the CARES Act, and we do have socialism for the rich. Yeah. The rich know how awesome socialism is, and they're so greedy they don't want anybody else to have it. So we have corporate socialism for sure. So they have very little risk. Anytime that the risks turn into losses, we're the ones who pay for the losses. They never do. So I think that's it. Unless there's anything on Rockfin. No, we haven't had anything. We haven't had anything there, and nothing. I'm check Rumble real quick. Indie Left News said, "Fuck YouTube." I agree. Fuck YouTube. Well, we are on YouTube right now, so I got to be a little bit nice, right? But I understand where Indy's coming from. So let's see. I think that's it for tonight, and I did 3 hours. Wow. Not too shabby, not too shabby. So if I get to do this again, hopefully next time I'll have the soundboard. I'll have some sounds, and I like doing the reaction videos. So maybe I'll find some more politics based videos I can react to live without watching them. Like I know RBN does a lot of good stuff, and they put things out over the weekend, and there's other people too. I'd like to do that on Twitter, but you got to be careful on Twitter because they have much different censorship rules there than YouTube. So you can actually stumble across stuff that's not okay to be showing on YouTube. But we'll see. Maybe there's some times where there are people posting things that I can trust and know that it's going to be safe for work content. Well, anyhow, I had a good time with you all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the super chats, and I hope you enjoyed this first solo episode of Pasta with Cheese. And I want to thank Kit Cabello for joining me earlier to talk about the Disney stuff. I think that was really good. We went a whole hour, so that's going to be we might be able to make that into 2 videos with some creative editing. So thanks everybody for watching. This is Pasta to Go, presenting Pasta with Cheese. Pasta should be back this week. Unless he actually got some things coming through today that will enable him to extend his trip, which I can't talk about. But he had good news and he had bad news, and he had good news and then he got bad news again. So I'm not sure where it stands right now. He might be coming back this weekend, or he might be coming back. He might be actually going to take the trip he thought and then coming back afterwards. So I'll find out either tomorrow or Monday on that. But as far as I think Tuesday, I think we will be going live. If not, he says he's at least going to record something to put up for that show. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. I want to thank everybody for watching. This was a lot of fun. I got to admit, I was nervous doing this show, putting the things together, and it worked out. I think I did a pretty good job. I'm pretty happy with it. We'll find out how the stuttering went on the stream, because I know I saw my stream freezing a little bit on my end. Hopefully it wasn't too bad on your end, and we could still make some decent clips out of that. But thanks again for watching. I'm Cheeseslice. You can call me Jayme. That's because that's my name. And this was Pasta with Cheese on Pasta to Go. Have a good rest of the weekend.
you.